What up, everybody? It is Free Talk Friday. Jazari and Tommy here for another open mic discussion. The first Free Talk Friday of 2025. Hope everybody is going into the new year happy, healthy, feeling very ambitious to take on the new year with all your heart's desires.
How you doing, man?
Good. How are you doing?
Yeah. Doing all right. First day of the new Congress.
That's today?
Yeah. 119th, I believe.
Okay. We'll see. There's a lot of mess going on with the speakership already. Trump
Yeah.
said he wants to support Mike Johnson, and there are people who are saying they won't. The margin is razor thin. There's what, 219?
20. Yeah, but somebody did resign. Matt Gaetz has resigned, so it's 219 to 215 right now.
Yeah, Matt Gaetz says he's not returning.
So they reelected Mike Johnson. There was a little bit of drama. Yeah, they did. In a decisive move, President-elect Donald Trump intervened by personally contact. Okay, well, let me back up. Republicans holding a narrow 219 to 215 majority. Johnson could afford only one defection from his party. Initially, 3 Republicans, Reps Thomas Mazie, Norman, and Keith Self of Texas, voted for alternative candidates, jeopardizing Johnson's bid. In a decisive move, President-elect Donald Trump intervened by personally contacting Norman and Self, urging them to support Johnson to avoid prolonged voting and to respect the voters' mandate. Following these discussions, both representatives changed their votes, securing Johnson's position with exactly 218 votes. So,
wow.
I said on a previous episode that I thought Speaker Mike Johnson was done because of the continuing resolution fiasco that happened a week or two ago, and I was wrong. So apparently Trump was made happy, and he made sure that Speaker Johnson got pushed over the line. But it's gonna be a really tough Congress, because even when they get filled back up to 220, they can only do votes.
I mean, I'm not expecting a lot to happen.
Yeah.
These next 2 years. I'm honestly not expecting. I mean, there's a lot of things, the president can do via executive action or executive order. But as far as concrete legislation, I just don't see much getting pushed through Congress.
I don't know. It's tough to say. I mean, they had such a narrow thing here, and there were 3 holdouts, which right now it's only 2 that they can lose, but when they fill back up to 220, they can only lose 3 votes. But you see what Trump did to here. If there's a piece of legislation that needs to be pushed, even if the far right wing doesn't want it, if Trump can be convinced, you might see a lot of things get done. Not good things, but it just depends on how well Trump can flex his influence. And I think he'd be able to do that in the House better than he would the Senate. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially those senators who won their reelection and maybe are not as part of that fringe right. People like Deb Fisher, she's good. She's going to be there by the time Trump is. She's going to be there after he's gone. So I mean, some of them who are just I don't have to worry about an election in the next 2 years.
And the new majority leader, Thune, I think, is from North Dakota or South Dakota. He was not Trump's preference to be majority leader. Trump wanted Rick Scott. So, I mean, that shows you that the Senate Republicans are being a little bit, independent from Trump's influence. But in the end, I guess there's the Senate filibuster for legislation. But I mean, I think one of these days over the next 4 years, you're going to hear that Justice Thomas or Alito or both are going to say something like, we want to retire now, even though we said we were going to die in office. But it's going to be a tough day,
Yo, just a heads up, because we talked about this, Tommy. You brought it up. The inauguration day is on MLK Day. And how iconic and historic had it been, the first Black South Asian female president of the United States being sworn in on MLK Day.
MLK Day. And but the thing is we still got to go through that day, and it's got to be Trump,
Yeah.
There's always discussion
about wall-to-wall coverage. Yeah.
There's always this discussion of whether he's racist or not. It's because look, he's got oh gosh, the lady from The Apprentice, what was her name?
I didn't watch that show.
But he's also got like Scott Walker. Oh, he's got all of these, you know, he would say, oh, we got all these black folks in the administration. He can't be racist. And they actually had a black woman from the administration come and testify against him, I think during his impeachment trial. And she was like, no, he's never been racist to me. And it's just like, okay, yeah, I'm sure we can get that. I'm sure we can get an unbiased. But what are you going to say? If you say, yeah, he was racist, like, you're going to get fired. Like, but okay. But let's push it back to a time before he was in politics. I mean, the guy got sued by the federal government several times for discriminating against black folks living in his property. You know?
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for content this upcoming administration. There are going to be a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to discuss, a lot of perspectives to dive into, and conversations to be had. We have quite a few. Would I say quite a few? Yeah, I would say a good handful of people that we want to, you know, come into the studio and chat with us. We have some like, you know, soft commits already that are going to be amazing. You know, some already on the book scheduled. Still kind of salty about the one earlier, but it's okay.
But yesterday,
it's okay,
man.
It's okay. Huh?
Yeah, it's okay.
Yesterday was good. Yeah, yesterday was good. Yo, so we had Maurice Jones come up to the studio, well, come down to Lincoln from Omaha. And that conversation lasted, 2 hours and 50 minutes, pretty much 3 hours. And he was there for longer than that. Like, it took us, you know, like 25, 30 minutes to get things up and running. And then even after that, like, you know, so he was with us for a good, like 3.5 hours yesterday.
Yeah. And he told us a few things that we looked at each other and we were like, what?
Like, what? Yeah.
No, I can't wait for the episode to drop. And I can't wait to get some clips up too, you know?
Dropping on Monday.
Yeah. I mean, he's clearly done his homework. He knows North Omaha like the back of his hand. Clearly. I mean, so many issues he went through, you know? I mean, yeah.
And I brought up like specific like things and historical events that took place and he knew them, you know, like, and talked about it and gave such enlightening perspective on so many things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he had me at Selma.
Yeah.
You know, if you know the name Bull Connor, that's all right. I'm voting for you. You know, if you know that specific history, man, Jesus.
So yeah, everybody, make sure you're subscribed to that YouTube channel because that's where it's going to drop. But if you prefer to listen, it's also going to be available everywhere that you get your podcasts. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcast, or, you know, that form. Everywhere you get your podcast. So make sure you're following along for that because you won't want to miss it. It was a great conversation. You know, seeing a 26-year-old throwing their hat in the ring for city council, or throwing their name in the hat for city council.
Hat in the ring. Yeah. You're throwing your hat in the ring.
No, I corrected myself. I said he threw his name in the hat.
All right. Yeah. Anyways,
have you ever heard of that?
No, you throw your hat in the ring. Okay, one of us is wrong here. Now your confidence is like making me go, am I wrong?
Well, I've heard the like phrase like, oh, I threw my name in the hat for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. A lot of great stuff. You know.
Yeah, I mean, y'all should check him out. Like, even if you don't live in District 2, like, watch the interview. And if you don't come away thinking this guy knows what he's talking about, then he's not wise enough to be on city council, I'd be very surprised. So I don't know.
Even aside from, like, even if you don't live in his district, some of the things that he brought up and some of the points he made, you'd be like, ooh, maybe my, you know, city councilor should be talking about this kind of stuff. Or maybe I should expect this from my representation. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we have city councils here who will say that public transportation is useless. Oh, we can't get any better. It's just going to be what it is and stuff. And it's like, yeah, you got to sit out on the corner in the middle of winter waiting 30 minutes for your bus. And you know, he said that himself, totally and like, you know, man after my own heart, if you're going to bring up public transit like that. But that's, yeah, I mean, even if you don't live in District 2, if there's somebody there who's going to be a champion on something as, you know, seemingly benign as public transit, he can help your city, even if you live far away from District 2. So listen to this guy. Go and listen to this guy, make up your own minds and stuff. And if you feel like he's worthy of your support, definitely do it.
Those photos went crazy yesterday. I actually really like those.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't, you know, this is you're a journalist and you're a photojournalist and all this other stuff, and I'm lucky if I can get a good family photo. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's so much happening that I know so little about. So it's just like where can I add more?
Yeah.
Like where can I pitch in more? Yeah. So I am really excited about the clips I've been cutting lately. So hopefully some of those will get posted soon. But going through some of these episodes that I was there in the room and then going back over these episodes, it's just like that amazing perspective so far. So
yeah, actually, so people know who we're talking about.
Yeah, Maurice Jones.
The screen. Yeah, this is Maurice. So yeah, this is who came up yesterday and chatted with us. But yeah, he had a lot of good ideas and perspectives, I would say. Trying to think off the top of my head one that I thought was interesting. Oh, like his whole thing of like city contracts, getting rid of like different degree requirements for entry level city jobs, trying to invest in local businesses and entrepreneurship, which was really, really good. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, bringing small or North Omaha, like he was talking about, is historically discriminated against, cut off like economically, and we go into that, and he talks about like how we need to have economic investment back into Omaha and District 2, and it's just like we got to look at the past and see that it used to be a thriving place, and then certain actions were taken that kind of like choked them economically. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I hope he's really successful if he's elected. If the people of District 2 decide that he should be it, I do hope he's successful. He seemed a very grounded person.
Mm-hmm.
Knew so much. I mean, and he was willing to have some really tough conversations that, in my experience, most candidates would not have those tough conversations. You know what I'm saying? I was just blown away. Sure. I was just blown away.
Same.
Yeah. So very, very I can't wait till that drops. I can't wait till we get some clips out and people learn about who Maurice Jones is.
I finished the one that we recorded reacting to the last two interviews, which I need to publish that tomorrow while we're doing the other recording, and then this one will drop Monday. Yeah. So yeah.
It's a lot. You got a lot of workload,
Yeah. I mean, you helping with the clips.
Yeah, and I definitely want to see those drops. But like, how, like, just because it's Free Talk Friday and we can talk about anything.
Good evening, how long Wanda. Hope you're staying nice and warm out there. I don't know. Is it snowing in Omaha right now? Go ahead. What were you gonna say? How long does it take to edit an episode?
Yeah, so like an episode like Jesse's or even Maurice's, like Precious's was 2 hours, and I think Jesse's was close to 2 hours. Like, how long does that take you to put together?
Maybe 5 hours.
Yikes! Wow, that's crazy. Yeah,
because I mean, think about it. So like, you make all the cuts are made.
Mm-hmm.
I have to listen through if there's any sound, anything. I mean, when we had to take pauses to readjust whatever, have to go through, cut that out, find the right transition,
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm trying to speed up the workflow as far as that, AI is definitely helping. But yeah,
I mean, I'm using AI for the clips, and I started out like when I first started tried editing clips, I was just using simple OpenShot. I think OpenShot or something like that. And that was just very simple cut and edit sort of thing. And I was like, this is not time efficient. So then I found a different program that uses AI and all this other stuff and generates.
Imagine what it was like before using AI to make these cuts.
I mean, when I was in high school back in 2008, 2009, like I used like an Apple iMovie Maker or something like that. And the difference is night and day.
Yeah, for sure.
Like taking a 2-hour video and getting all the clips that I think they're, definitely good for highlights with the program that I was using, it probably made that an hour and a half, which is not bad at all to get clips and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, I just wanted to get an idea of like how long it takes you to edit a full on video.
I mean, it takes a while, and usually, like, some team, like, people or podcasts have like dedicated editors who handle just this specific thing, but that's kind of hard to like find, especially for like podcasts like this. So, I mean, the AI definitely takes out I would say, like, if I had an editor to do this, I would still go through and like review it. So it kind of just like defeats the purpose of like the AI part like cuts out like having to have like, which
Yeah.
I mean sucks, but it's just like, how many people want to sit there and edit, a 3-hour podcast. So
I mean, you're definitely a master of your craft. You definitely put a lot of, I see other like podcasts out there, and like I can tell the difference between yours and theirs. I'm just thinking like, wow, this guy puts so much into the. Did you see what Wanda said, by the way? Did you see that?
I did. Wanda Lewis. There are several candidates running for city council in District 2, which I happen to live in. Okay. Let's try to interview them all. Everyone's welcome. Like, we're never going to turn anyone away that comes on the show,
Yeah. Yeah.
All are welcome. If you want to come up here and, sit with us in our studio and chat about like your ideas, your visions, things like that, hit us
Let's
up.
do
You
it.
know where to find us.
Yeah.
We're not hard people to reach.
Yeah, well, I'll talk to anyone. There's no,
like, we're very accessible.
Like I was telling you when we were going over like what's the best advice he ever got, we were just kind of sharing, and I said, I knew a really smart guy who told me there's nobody on this planet that you can't learn something from,
Right.
And then he also taught me how to buy a used vehicle, because he used to be a used car salesperson, and like he had all these tricks. I was just like, it's crazy.
That is wild.
Yeah.
So yeah, that race is heating up. There are several people who jumped in. Mike Lee just formally announced that he's going to be doing his kickoff here shortly. So, Peyton Zyla did his stuff. I saw him on First Guy Omaha. He did an interview on there like several weeks ago, if I remember correctly. I tuned in for a little bit and saw some of that. But yeah, lots of people to talk to. I mean, especially with this upcoming legislative session, first-time senators who are being sworn in, people who have just won their races. Lots of cool stuff happening. So yeah.
Yeah, just one quick comment to Wanda. Like, definitely, that's going to be a great.
You want to adjust your headspace?
Yeah, hold on. Ever the perfectionist. Does that sound good? You like to see my Chrome Dome?
Thanks for all you do. Thank you so much for tuning in, Wanda. We do appreciate you.
Yeah. So, yeah, Wanda. Like, I think you're gonna have a lot of good candidates to choose from. So, definitely look at them, and also encourage anybody else who in District 2, anyone else who lives in District 2, encourage them to vote. These city elections are very sleepy ones. I think we're kind of exhausted. After every cycle, midterm, presidential election, that's when Lincoln and Omaha have their elections. And so the turnout rate is actually quite small for both cities. But District 2, Maurice was telling us it's like 20% is a good year, and it's
that's insane.
Your city council has a bigger impact on your life than Congress does. And I know Congress and the Senate and the president get all the fanfare, and it's like watching the Super Bowl. But your city council is the one that has the biggest impact on your life. And if there's a 20% turnout, like you really need to be able to make your voice heard there, because that's where the biggest change happens. I know it doesn't seem like that, but definitely encourage all your friends to look at this race. You're gonna have some good people to choose from. So
a lot of good young people to choose from.
Yeah, I was really excited about that. I mean, he had a lot of life experience. I mean, he's a small business owner. He was a cop for a year. Gave us a lot of good insight there. It's when it comes to the police, I know that we can have like negative perceptions of the police. I've always kind of been vaguely aware, like, hey, that's a really tough job. I've had some negative experiences in the past with the police. I've had positive experiences and that sort of thing. And then the insight he gives you just really puts that feeling into words. So, I mean, it's a very complicated thing. And I know there are a lot of activists out there, progressives, who, I agree with their politics, but, things are very complicated. It's a very complex discussion we had. Yeah. And that was one of those when he told us some things that made me go, what? I'd like to think that I'm somebody who's like really well informed, but he said some things that I was just like, how did I make it 33 years not knowing that? I'm like a civics nerd, and I didn't know some of the stuff he was telling me. I was just like, that is amazing. And then I went and looked it up just to make sure it was accurate. It's accurate. I'll let the episode speak for itself. We won't go too much into it and reveal too much. But there was an episode where you and I both looked at each other with like wide eyes, like what?
Yeah.
So,
and that's the thing. Like we don't know everything. You know, we don't know all perspectives that are out there. We don't know everyone's experiences that are out there. And so that's why we invite people to come on and kind of share those perspectives and things. And yeah.
I'm definitely, I try to be informed. I'm definitely not an expert though, and I am really there to learn. Like I'm not there to preach what I think. I just really want to know. And he knew a lot. He knew a lot about the history of District 2, and we talked about redlining and debanking and all these other historical injustices and stuff like that. And I mean, if people are willing to have those tough conversations and really like take them head on, I think that that's the first step. Being able to acknowledge what happened in the past so that we can move forward. So
yeah, Anthony Rogers, right? I think one thing that would be constructive or be instructive, would be a basic breakdown on what city council members can and cannot do. This will help the people who discern actual platforms versus empty platitudes. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I also think there are some things that, you can find, I don't want to say workarounds or loopholes, but, people might think that, oh, you can't actually do this as a city councilor, but if you follow this ordinance or there may be these rules that kind of bypass this, like finding workarounds to solutions that other people might just give up on. So yeah.
I mean, they could impose a lot of taxes. I mean, they can repeal or pass ordinances. I mean, a lot of budgetary control. I mean, you think your federal taxes are a lot, your city taxes could go up by quite a bit. And then I know it might roads can be very controversial, infrastructure spending. He was telling us that Omaha's got money,
yeah,
and they need to use it in certain areas. So,
and like you were saying earlier, coming off a heated presidential election, and which they're all just going to be like that. People do get burned out. But then that's maybe an opportunity to come in and be like, look, like, this community was really worried about this and figured maybe that could be fixed at the presidential level, but this is actually what could happen at the local level. This is what we could actually do in our city hall and not have to worry about, federal politics to like fix said issue for us within our community. There are ways to like alleviate, the issues your community is facing at the local level, which has the most direct impact on you. But obviously we get drowned out because, like you said, it's like a Super Bowl at the top and, everybody's focused on that. Imagine living in a place like Pennsylvania, nonstop ads, like the swing states, nonstop ads, Wisconsin, where it's like literally like almost 50-50 voting every time. Crazy. Yeah. So yeah. Speaking of roads and things, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Speaking of roads and things, did you see that? So my friend Abiola posted that photo when there was that cold freeze. Did we talk about that on the show?
No, I don't think we did.
He was sitting on a plane and Mayor Stothert was behind him and he took a photo of him. And this was a couple of years ago. But when that cold freeze happened, he posted it. He said, me and Gene are currently on our way to someplace warm. # not our problem. So, and my friend in Vegas, who's also a reporter, he's like, I don't think this is funny because like people actually believe that. People actually believe she was on her way out. And I'm just like, this is where having an effective media team comes in play. Okay. Mm-hmm. This is what I would have done. Immediately respond to it. Don't ignore it and wait to be contacted by, KETV or the local news. Immediately respond. Take a video out there on them streets next to those trucks. Ha, you are so funny. I remember taking that photo with you, 3 years ago when we were on our way here and there. But yeah, you're a funny guy. We see you come across social media and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I love the conversation I had with you 3 years ago on the plane in the summertime. But yeah, we are out here, as you can see, show your phone. This is currently the date and we're out here. This is the situation. Trucks are, because if you don't, this is what they taught us like day one in journalism school, because we had to take like this journalism 101 like PR, whatever. If you don't control a crisis, somebody's going to control it for you. Yeah. Or if you don't take hold of the narrative.
I thought that's what you were going to say. Yeah.
For real. So that's what I would have done. Instantly would have stopped it.
I mean, politicians really need to get savvy when it comes to social media and kind of the modern stuff. So it's like, hey, if you're out there, these long form interviews are pretty good. You know,
I mean, not even them. It's their team. You know, like because usually they hire people to handle this stuff. Yeah, for sure.
You know, it reminds me of the city council race here when Lyrian was running for re-election, and there was like, you know, Susan Geis, who was running against her, had like a ton of money put into ads, you know, coming from the Pede family and Pete Ricketts. And one of the ads that kept playing was like, she doesn't even live here. She lives in some town between here and Omaha. That's where she spends all her time. She doesn't even live here.
Yeah, and she has a mansion in Ashland. Yeah.
Lyrian's team, their best response was just putting her on TV. If I recall correctly, maybe I don't, but their best response was, I live here. Like, that's not true. I live here. And what I thought, and I was just daydreaming, what I thought would have been better is if like the scene opens, you see somebody sitting on their porch watching one of these ads, right? Maybe a parody of these ads about how she doesn't live there. And he goes, huh? And he looks up and he sees Lyrian sitting across his house because they live in the same neighborhood, you know? And he's just like, and then Lyrian's just like, hi, hey, Bob.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that would have been good. I thought that would have been good. Instead of just having her out there just like, get creative, have fun too, you know?
Yeah. You know, because it's like politicians, they're just like us. You know, those kind of.
Hello, person. I'm just like you. Netflix.
I want to read it. Let me read these comments really quick. So Wanda Lewis did say there are some districts where council members are incumbents and will be running without opposition. However, in District 2, which is the most impoverished, has the most candidates.
Good for them.
That's wild. Yeah. I mean, and that a lot of people see an issue that they feel like they need to step up and be a part of the solution for, you know? So
yeah.
Anthony Rogers, right? People definitely need to know that Omaha doesn't even dedicate a full percentage of its annual budget to city planning, which is beyond myopic given the climate crisis, population growth, etc. Hoping to hear how all candidates will plan to address this among other salient issues. And if I remember correctly, we did touch on this. Did we talk about city planning?
I don't think so.
I think we talked. I think we talked about like infrastructure transit. And like, transit infrastructure, you know, accessibility, things like that. Yeah, we did discuss that. Mm-hmm. And he talked about his like idea and stuff to do that as far as like trade jobs, bus routes, hubs, things like that. Wanda Lewis says we have a mayor that lives in 2 different states. Precious McKesson, hi friends. Hey Precious, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks again for coming and chatting with us, you know, a couple of weeks ago in the studio. Had a lot of fun. I told Tommy after you left, I was like, I felt bad that I had you drinking out of that chip ceramic cup from Walmart. So the next time you come, the next time you come back, we got Aquafina, we got Spindrift, American Clear, we have roasted honey peanuts, we have yogurt covered raisins, Hershey Kisses, new cups, coffee, French vanilla creamer. We have ice cubes that are round, you know, with nice glass cups. All that to say,
I don't know if you I don't know.
It won't be like the White House. It won't be like, you know, what you see at the White House, but you know, we got a little bit better. Oh, sorry, Tommy, what were you gonna say?
I was saying, like, I don't know if you could tell, but today when I was on the search for buying some recording signs, I was actually pretty excited about those. So we got 2 recording signs coming our way to let people know that we're on air and to be quiet. No, I mean, I'm actually in the middle of editing Precious's episode down to certain clips. And like, I know that social media likes to have clips at 3 minutes or less, but there was just so much in that episode. And like, there was one clip that I'm like, I cannot get this clip any shorter than 20 minutes. It's such a good clip. There's so much good context. There's no way I can chop this up and lose all that context. Like, seriously, it's like 19 minutes of scintillating like discussion, like a side of like a legislative race you'd never get to hear about, you know?
Yeah, so, good stuff.
I'm really excited to see some of those clips drop. They're gonna be a little more digestible, but I was editing 2 other episodes and I could see, oh yeah, 3-minute clip here, a minute minute and a half clip here, like that totally works. I was doing
Mhm.
Precious's episode today and I was just like, there's so much here. I just can't cut. Like, you know?
I'm telling
Yeah.
you, it's hard. Yeah. She said,
Yeah.
"I'm not fancy, water's water." I appreciate y'all so much. I had a great time. We had a lot of fun too. And also just to let people know that like all the live streams and episodes we do, there are audio versions, like I said earlier, wherever you get your podcast. So if like like to work out and listen to podcasts, if you're at work and you can listen to podcasts, you're doing things around your house, whatever the case may be, there are ways to kind of tune in and make sure that you are up to date on the information and all that good stuff through our interviews and live streams, just audio only. So yeah.
Yeah. Very insightful episode. And I can't wait for the clips to drop soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I've been acquainted with Precious for maybe a little over 2 years now, and I felt like I never learned more about her than that like 2-hour conversation. It's crazy.
For
You
sure.
can be around people for so often and just never know who they are for real. You know what I mean?
Yeah. She said I had
Yeah.
people calling me saying that's the best interview I've ever done. It shows you're
It's pretty
human,
cool.
humanizes people, lets people
Happy
know
New
that.
Year.
Yeah.
Sorry, reading the chat.
Oh, Blake, Happy New Year. I saw the photos with you and Hunter. So this was a client that we worked with earlier this end of summer, early fall. But anyways, yeah, Happy New Year, Blake. Thank you so much for tuning in. 2025 is going to be such a lit year.
That's one way of putting it. Best year ever. Maybe. We'll see. I don't know what to expect, man. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen. Apparently in the next in I don't know, 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks, we're apparently supposed to have the biggest deportation effort in history of the world.
Oh my gosh.
So
do you actually think that's going to happen?
I mean, no, not
do you
in the
think
way
the court do you think the courts will like come in and stop it? Because go ahead and then I'll chime in.
No, I mean, it's a very complex legal situation that you can never really have that discussion during a presidential election about how complicated it is. Like, the two biggest things you could probably do to help the immigration process is one, I mean, the courts are just absolutely backlogged. You need more judges to be able to handle like asylum cases and then also like cases of coming over the border illegally. Like that would take care of a huge backlog, just having more and more immigration judges. And then the other thing is like getting a real like path to citizenship, because we do some strange things like chain migration, right? And that's not always fair to everybody trying to come to America.
Wait, what is that?
So it's like if your cousin, if you're here legally on visa or you're a citizen now, and a cousin from a different country, like they can come along because that's part of the chain. I don't know if it's changed, but one of the things that people were talking about was like, it should probably only be nuclear family. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I mean, like there are some. I just believe the reason why we don't talk about immigration more in depth is because it's just convenient to be a political football, And
that's sad.
Like you just saw that New Orleans attack, like immediately all the conservative politicians jumped on and said, this is Joe Biden's open borders. And it's like, that guy's from Texas, and he's a veteran.
And that's really sad because we can have a deeper discussion of just like, American meddling, interference, whatever you want to call it, in foreign governments, in different countries that causes people to immigrate here because of whatever collapse they're facing in their own country. Blah, blah, black sheep, have you any? The other thing too is like, do you really think somebody left the beaches of Belize to live in Oklahoma to work at the meat packing plant there in the Panhandle? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like really trying to understand what are the cases, and things do get weaponized to like the highest levels where, there are cases where migrants come and commit horrible crimes, right? But then to just use that to like blast everyone and be like, this is what they're all doing. This is what they're all doing.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, it's like the murder of Laken Riley and how that was used as a political football. It's like, yeah, that was a horrible crime committed by an immigrant who crossed the border illegally and was in the middle of the process of being deported. Like, you can't be deported like right away just because you crossed the border illegally. You got to have a court date, right? Due process. It's American tradition.
And also, they have to like coordinate with the country that's going to be receiving you.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like, yeah, I know the murder of Laken Riley was a horrible tragedy, and it's like perhaps it could have been prevented if we had like, common sense immigration reform. But it's just like, look at the statistics. An undocumented migrant commits crimes at a much lower level than a documented migrant, and then documented migrants commit crimes at a much lower level than a natural born citizen. So it's just, but you can't have these discussions in a 30-minute campaign ad, it's the payoff isn't as well, I mean, you just put up a scary ad, 30 seconds about, scary brown people coming to the United States, and that's enough.
Yeah. And this topic, as far as like immigration and things, is kind of hard for me because my family immigrated here, clearly, I was born here, but my family immigrated here like in 1995, and so many other people, that we know. And I just don't so it's so weird too, like hearing, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I guess I just don't like when I see this stuff happening and like these talking points happening, I'm just like, dang, like if my family was coming here, knowing that what they were fleeing back there, it was like people would think that I'm a criminal like that. People would like the perception people would have of you, like the negative, like,
mm-hmm.
the negative perception and stuff. But yeah, dude, if I'm remembering correctly, which I'll have to ask her, like the way that my family was able to come here, they came as refugees, and it was because of a U.S. ambassador. Like, it was a wild thing. And I remember my mom telling me that guy, which I'll need to do all the research and stuff like that, but he's, from what I remember, he's still alive, but like very, very like old.
Yeah.
And so like he met my mom when she was like pregnant with me. And I think it would just be so cool to like meet him and be like, like, this is where we are today because of your help. Like, it was wild. Crazy times. But yeah, as far as like mass deportations and things like that, there's a lot of people who work low-level jobs. And let's talk about the H-1B visa or HB-1 visa situation, right? So when people talk about migrants coming in and taking jobs, like when you look at the jobs that Americans have and the jobs that migrants or immigrants have, they're jobs that most Americans wouldn't want to do. Working at meatpacking plant, roofing companies, construction, concrete, like, those like laborious jobs that are very important, but not desirable for Americans. Most Americans, like we were talking yesterday, say you go to college, work at office level job, work in a hospital, work in this field, be an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor, or work in tech, right? Those are the jobs that more Americans are interested in working. White collar jobs? Maybe. Anyways, so then the whole thing with Elon Musk and them talking about, okay, we're going to kick these immigrants out of here, deport all these people, have Americans work those jobs, and then bring in highly skilled individuals from other countries to work these white collar tech jobs high up there, pay them less under poor conditions to skyrocket their profits.
And I mean, I'm already seeing
the chickens are coming home to roost. The chickens are coming home to roost.
I'm already seeing some people who were huge Trump supporters and some of the really far right talking heads already having regrets. Because before the election, it was, we're going to make America great again. We're going to get rid of these people. I mean, one of the things Trump said about...
Did you see Laura Loomer?
Yeah, hold on. So one of his pledges was like, hey, we're going to fix the housing crisis because we're going to kick a lot of people out and there's going to be room for a lot more. And then as soon as the election is over, what happens? Oh, we need to keep some immigrants here. Oh, why? Because Americans aren't smart enough. They're not skilled enough. And is that the truth? No, that's not the truth. The truth is an H-1B visa person is not going to join a union. They're not going to demand higher wages. They're going to keep their mouth shut because they don't want to have that visa revoked and have to go back to their country in a month.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you want it. Vivek Ramaswamy, Elon Musk, and
Yeah. And
now Donald Trump.
They buy things here, but they also like, hey, like if one of our family members can, oftentimes in other countries, and I'll just say from the perspective of just like, South Sudan and things like that, if you have the
Mhm.
opportunity to send even one of your family members to get to a level where they can potentially be able to help provide for your family back home. So these people coming here, working these jobs, it's not just because of them. They most likely have people they're taking care of back there, right? They probably
Mhm.
have sick relatives that they're, sending money for care or medicine, knowing that this is their only chance at survival, me working this tech job at Tesla or Google. So I can't complain because that's life or death for my family,
Sure.
So,
I
and they're
was
getting paid less than what.
I worked
Wow.
in a cleaning service when I was in high school or college. I worked a lot of weird jobs in college. And one of my coworkers was a woman from Russia, right? And she spoke like broken English and stuff, but so one of the things that she would do is she would go to Goodwill all the time and like buy clothes and send them back home to Russia.
Wow.
It might have been one of the Eastern Bloc countries, but is one of those Slavic nations. But she would just buy a ton of clothes at Goodwill and just ship them back home. And she's their lifeline. Is she going to try to join a union? Is she going to demand better wages? She's like, no, I mean, I'm somebody else's lifeline. If I lose this job and I'm not able to stay here. So, I mean, that Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, what they're saying is true, is we should have talent here. We shouldn't so let me put it this way. My friend from Sri Lanka, brilliant person. She got a double major in finance and accounting in 2.5 years. Brilliant
Wow.
person. Yeah. But she couldn't find a job here because
Sponsorships.
it's not as easy in certain industries to get visas to work here, but she got like a few months, and then like even though she was this amazingly talented individual, she still had to go home. And I don't think she regrets it anymore. Like she has a great life back in Sri Lanka. But it's like, it's true. We need to keep talented people here if we can. Why are they're coming here to be educated, and then we're just sending them home, and maybe they would be a great contributor to our society here in America. That's true. What Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are saying is, some of it is true, but they're not saying that because they actually believe that. They're saying that because they don't want to pay people higher wages.
I do for sure. Real quick comment from Blake on YouTube. What I'm understanding, the immigrants that will be deported have yet to get a job. We talked about this too. Some people who get swept up in these immigration raids or deportation raids are citizens or people here legally that get accidentally deported, which pegs the question: what happens if like you're a homeowner that accidentally gets deported? You still own that property, right?
Yeah, I mean, like we did a clip on 60 Minutes where they were saying like, I've been here for so long, my children are American citizens, but my parents aren't, and my parents are sickly and old. If they get deported, I have to go back home. And this individual was also undocumented, but she bought her home. I mean, let's take a little bit of responsibility here. We have a lot of businesses here that love undocumented labor. There are some shady businesses that will even give them, like, help them like get a social security number that does not belong to them because they love it. And that's how a lot of them pay taxes, is because businesses love them so much that they're willing to break the law.
Real quick, like Blake, I saw like this interview too on one mainstream outlet of, a farmer in North Dakota talking about how he has a lot of undocumented migrants that work for him, but he supported Trump because he doesn't actually think those people are going to get deported. And he's the dude that said if they lose that labor, we'll start running out of food in 2 days. 2 days, like we're going to start feeling the immediate supply chain issues of, tomatoes at the grocery store.
I just looked it up. It's not people who don't have jobs that are going to be. It's anybody who's undocumented. And like, hey man, we are a nation of laws. If you do cross the border illegally, I mean, you got to do it the right way. And then I have family members who did it the right way, quote unquote, the right way. It's very hard. And when they become, people are like surprised that naturalized Hispanic people are actually kind of hardcore on illegal immigration. And it's just because, you know, they feel like, hey, man, like I went through all of this and I'm a naturalized citizen. I followed the law, I followed the rules, but I still have to compete with somebody who came here illegally, which means wages go down and stuff like that. I get it, but you know, our system doesn't make any sense, like when it comes to being able to become a citizen. But from what I understand, like I just looked it up. Regardless of employment information, this is just a response to Blake. Regardless of employment status, if they're undocumented, they will be sent away. And he's saying something like 11 million, which is, let's see, he's saying 11 million. Oh, sorry, I've lost my place. Yeah, it says Trump aims to deport between 15 to 20 million undocumented individuals, despite estimates indicating approximately 11 million undocumented immigrants. So where are those 4 to 9 million people coming from? And remember, we're not 100% great at deporting undocumented. We sometimes deport American citizens. You know, it happens.
I think lost my train of thought there. I had something good to say.
I'm just saying, like, there's a lot we could probably agree on. What's Blake? But in the end, it's just like, hey, let me put it this way. You know, it's not terribly unlikely. It's not impossible that because of climate change, I might have to migrate north. I mean, analysts talk about this all the time, that people in the American Southwest are likely going to have to, they're probably going to be displaced. And some analysts will tell you
Phoenix running out of water.
Yeah, there's so many communities down there running out of water, and it's ridiculous that they still have stuff like golf courses there in Phoenix. It's just like, you got some communities that don't have any water. You have cities in the American Southwest that have banned owning a lawn because they don't want you to waste water. There's a point to this, by the way. So let's say like one day, like sometime between 2050, we're not going to be able to grow wheat anymore in Nebraska, right? That's an projection. But you know, that might be true. Like, we grow a lot of wheat here. What if the climate shifts so much that we can't grow wheat anymore in Nebraska? Okay, so here's the punchline. If I was having to choose between letting my family die or illegally migrating across the Canadian border, I'm going to pass that imaginary line. I don't care. Like, if it's life or death, like, I'm sorry, I don't care about your imaginary line on a map. So
yeah, I mean, people in desperate times call for desperate measures. People do things out of desperation. Like,
I mean, just think about it. Walk a mile in their shoes. You know, if you're from El Salvador, it's not that way anymore, but like, they had incredible gang violence. No wonder people wanted to come up here. You know, they talk about immigrant caravans. It's like, walk a mile in their shoes, learn their stories before you're so quick to cast them out. You know, it's complicated. So
yeah, and I mean, just the economic, like the economic collapse that could happen because of that. You know, when they talk about all the inflationary policies, which this would be the number one thing that would cause things to rise. And you know, we'll just see. This all stems from me saying, like, could all this stuff be possible? We'll see if the courts hold what will happen, or if it was all, like you said, just for political football, right? Like, if this was all just to rile up the base, to turn them out. And as far as like people coming, have you noticed that's the trend with just everything, you know, like even like student loan forgiveness. They were talking about, well, I did this, so it's not fair that they have to do this. I came legally, it's not fair they have to do that. So it's
I'm glad you had luck. Why are you upset somebody else gets some luck in life? Like, I have $20,000 of student loan debt. If I had to, I would be able to pay it off. But some people don't. Some people can't. And if I paid off all my student loans, which I am on track to do in the next few years, and then suddenly they said, okay, student loan forgiveness, I'm going to go like, well, why? I'm going to be like, good. Nobody should have ever had student loans. I'll be right back. I need to clock out of work, and I'll be back in 5. Great conversation. Hey, you know, this is Free Talk Friday. You know, I mean, we do. Yeah. So Blake, if you have the capability, just hop on. We'll talk. I mean, I don't want to be in a bubble. You know?
Yeah, everybody, just a reminder, this is Free Talk Friday. In the description is the like actual link to join this like stream. So if you click that link, it'll reroute you to the program we're using to pop up and be a guest. Why are you smirking like that?
Well, I'm just thinking about last week about how, I mean, I didn't expect a very
yeah.
emotionally charged discussion. And like, I'm telling you, somebody with, autism, ADHD, just a neurodivergent disorder in general, like I have to prepare for like emotionally driven discussions or interactions and stuff. And when I don't, you get what you got last week. And I don't think I was terrible at articulating, but I could have definitely been better.
It wasn't bad. Like, I think
so. I'm just worried he's gonna come on here and they're gonna push a button I'm not prepared to have pushed, and I'm just, it'll be a mess. But
okay, really quick, I do want to talk about this because somebody made something. Anthony did say, "Oh dang, we are behind on these comments. I apologize, guys."
Yeah,
Hold
I know.
on.
Yeah.
Anthony, Raj is right. Trump is nothing more than a Rockefeller. You want to read this?
Trump is nothing more than a Rockefeller Republican neoliberal. He's not going to dismantle the entire economy to accommodate racists and white supremacists. Republicans, like Democrats, are ruled by the corporate class. They have more power than the courts, and they are not going to let Trump embark on his deportations as they don't want to pay citizens living wages. Absolutely. But there's a few things that we could expand on. But like, that's the thing that people don't understand is Republicans are very business friendly, and businesses love undocumented work, labor,
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why you never really see any solutions coming from Republicans on it, because they're very business friendly, and businesses down in the South, they love undocumented work,
Yeah.
So, I mean, hold them accountable, y'all. Like, Republicans out there who voted for Trump and voted for change. They're like, I believe you are insincere in thinking that this man is going to do everything you want. Hold him accountable.
And that's so sad to see, like, people who, like, all the stories of people who are like, I saw it on like TikTok. One lady was talking about how her neighbor is an elderly woman. She's like, we live in a red state, blah, 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 just background context. When I make like bread, baked goods, whatever, I take it over to her, say hi, check on her, check on the ladies, the girls that come and like help take care of her, because she needs like pretty much round the clock care. So there's a staff of women and girls who come in and like filter out to like help take care of her, whatever that may be, like using the restroom, bathing, eating, things like that. Pretty much round the clock care in her home. So the lady's mom, so the lady who needs care, no. The daughter of the lady who needs care was talking to the neighbor who sometimes goes and checks on her mom, and was like, yeah, I'm really stressed out because the people who are taking care of my mom are immigrants, and if these policies if these deportations go through, I don't know what's going to happen. She's like, well, who'd you vote for? And she's like, well, Trump, but I thought he was only going to deport the bad ones. And she was like, honey, he meant everybody. And she was like, well, I don't know what to, and she's like, I don't know what to do now. I don't know who's going to help take care of my mom. And she's like, I don't know, girl, this is really spooky. I don't know about any of this stuff. I don't know what things are going to look like 2, 3, 4 years from now, but like, maybe you got to move back in with your mom. Like, I don't know what to tell you, So stuff like that. Insurance. People worried now that they're going to lose their health insurance if the Affordable Care Act is gutted. Right? The Department of Education, man, like making sure that schools are accessible and offer free opportunity for kids with disabilities or special needs to have a fair opportunity at education. That's all by the Federal Department of Education. So if that is closed, then schools, the states are responsible for making sure that every school is accessible to all kids, regardless of what their learning capabilities are, so that they have a shot at a fair shot at getting an education. And if you don't live in a state, which none of us do, who are able and willing to take on that just causes a lot of problems, man. So it's like, hey, Blake, he said, I'm back. So all that to say is just like, there's a lot of like domino effects and a lot of things that people didn't think of. Like when we talk, and also when we talk about people voting against their own interests, maybe this was their interest, maybe, I remember one guy talking about
friends. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I remember one guy talking about like, yeah, I might lose my health care, but I don't want to be considered a charity case. So I would rather lose my health care than somebody like, like perception and what people think it's a real thing. People have those thought process. Like, Yeah,
I mean,
I am fine like losing everything because I don't want to be considered a charity case.
Oh man, growing up low income and all the stereotypes about how we're charity cases and stuff like that. Dude, I could go on about that, but
I'm telling you, I grew up on
I mean,
public housing, food stamps, had to wait for the first of the month, you know. Some things
same
at the
here.
grocery store we
Same
couldn't
here.
get. If it wasn't covered by food stamps, we couldn't get it. Like, you know,
Let's just let
it's
y'all know, living at or near the poverty level, which is what these programs do, is they push you up maybe a little bit over the poverty level. Still living at that level is not comfortable. It's not fun. But if you're telling me, like, if I have a program, a social safety net program that 90% of the people are honest people, you know, down on their luck, and they just need a helping hand, but 10% are people taking advantage, like, I'm okay with that. Why would you punish 90% of honest people, which I know a lot of people are call me naive, but most people are honest, good people, you know? Why would you punish 90% of people just to spite 10%, just to teach 10% a lesson, you know?
Yo.
I don't know.
So
Yeah.
I saw this video, and it was like she gave these two examples, and don't want to make it racial, but this is the example that I saw. Oops, the AI mic, the AI camera is taking over. Hold on.
To the hands.
Yeah,
I turned mine off, so.
Yeah, no, that triggered it. So talking with my hands triggered like the AI features. But okay, so saying like, let's say we'll call her
Bessie.
Bessie.
Sorry.
Bessie is an immigrant. Her happiness level is at 90%. You know, she's doing good at her job. You know, her family's good. She's happy, things like that. And then let's say
Jim's
okay. Happiness level is at a 60%. You know, he's okay at work, could do better, wants a promotion, wants to make more money, right? Knowing that putting so and so in office to do all of this stuff that would negatively affect Bessie's family, healthcare structure, everything will take her happiness level from a 80, or what did I say? 90? From a 90 to a 40, and it would negatively affect Jim from a 60 to a 50 because he wants to have her in her happiness level in a deficit from her. He's willing to do that just to spite other people. So huge convoluted way of like putting in an example of what you were saying, which I don't even know if that was conducive to the conversation, but whatever.
No, totally. And
you got what I'm saying.
I'm asking you, like, all right, Trump Republicans. I shouldn't even call them Trump Republicans. I honestly feel like calling them MAGA Republicans or Trump Republicans is a mistake we made. But anyways, I honestly and sincerely hope y'all are right. Dude, if he could pass paid sick leave, if he could make, you know, healthcare actually accessible, I'll go get a MAGA hat right now, or whenever that happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, I will give credit where it's due. Like, I've said, listen, I'm glad he tore up the TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. I'm glad he tore that up. It was going to be NAFTA 2.0. It was going to decimate the labor force. I'm happy he got us started out of Afghanistan. Did he have a great plan? No. Did he do troop drawdowns too quickly to give us any kind of bargaining power? Yeah, I mean, it was too quick. But he got the process started, and I'll give him that credit. I am happy to be out of Afghanistan. Oh, and he passed paid sick leave for federal employees. So, I mean, hopefully that moves the Overton window. If he could pass these things, you know, universal lunches, if he could pass those things, I'll go get a MAGA hat. I don't care, you know? So, I mean, I'm just saying, I hope he's everything you think he is. And if he turns out not to be, I hope you're holding him accountable. And you know, honestly, when it comes to the battle over the HB1 visas, I mean, listen, he came out in fully support with Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. And it looks like, and you know, the internet is a hard place to actually get a beat on what's going on in real life, but it looks like his base did not like that. But hey, man, I mean, he's already, keep him in line. Tell him what you want. You know, if it's a policy that benefits Americans, I don't care. I'll support it, you know?
And the other thing too, like, aside from that, kind of a side note, like, we should really stop with the Harrison comparison or Harris comparisons, and people still trashing Kamala Harris. Like, she lost, he won. Why are we still talking about her?
I mean, listen, it's
like in the sense
easy
of
to,
just
yeah,
people still like posting photos and making these like misogynistic, sexist jokes for what? For what?
Because it's in those instances likely it's organic, the hate, the criticisms and stuff. And like, me and you, we've had discussions on how I've criticized some of the things that her campaign, the directions we went in. We've been in heated discussions and stuff, but it's just like, what does it matter anymore? Do you really got to go out of your way to be sexist or racist or overly critical? You won. And you know what she's going to do? You know what she's going to do? Is she going to throw a fit about it? No. In a few days, she is going to preside over a joint session of Congress to certify the election. And she's going to do it with dignity. And it's like, do you think that like Trump would do that if he was in that position? I mean, he already didn't.
Yeah.
Leave her alone. Let it go. You won, take your W, and now get the work done. Get to work. Every time my candidate wins, I'm happy for a night and then I take a big gulp. And I've said that for years. It's like, if he doesn't act right, if this candidate doesn't deliver, it's not going to be good. And I'll give him credit all day. But one of the things that President Biden ran on in 2020 a lot was, finally passing the public option, which I think it's way better than what we have now. And he campaigned on it and he campaigned on it and he campaigned on it and he won, and he never said anything about the public option again. Never. And it's just, that's the gulp moment. He ran on this very popular thing, this progressive thing. And as soon as he won, he shut up about it,
Yeah. Let me read Blake's comment really quick. He said, because Trump got the same hate now. So now supporters finally feel. That's what I hear from some of the Trump trolls.
Maybe. And go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to say like that could be a thing too. And the other thing is that like, you go ahead. Let me gather my thoughts.
Well, Blake, you might be right. Like, that's always the hardest thing about this in this age of social media. It's like, what is actually happening? What do people actually think? I mean, I totally get when my conservative friends think that there's this dystopian nightmare coming from far left activists and stuff like that. And I just have to wonder, are they getting that from real life, or are they getting that from the internet? Like, I don't know if the hate that's keep going, how much does that translate in real life? I don't know, man. It's like, as long as you can look at it and say that's wrong, like, all right,
Yeah. So like, the thing is that I think that, see, I don't see it. I feel like I've always seen this rhetoric. I've seen Trump at his campaign rallies talk about, back in my day, they would take him behind the scenes, calling people scum, calling Harris a shit vice president. I mean, like, saying all of like this vitriolic stuff at all of these rallies day in, day out for the last like 8 years. So it's like, when the Democrats started like, fighting fire with fire, it's kind of just like, I don't like the taste of that medicine, like that's, yeah. So
it's kind of you mentioned the word vitriol, and that kind of reminded me that we do have some clips we can share. Jesse did talk about like what it was like in the past. If you want to share a clip, cool. If not,
I don't have anything queued up. If you already do, go ahead.
No, I do. So
yeah, go ahead.
So you asked this. So
let
me see if I can get it on here.
I was going to say, while you do that, I'm going to read Anthony's comment. We're still talking about her because she chose genocide and neoliberalism over the presidency. We must not reduce principled criticism of Harris's failed campaign to racism and sexism. The binary of Democrats equals good and Republicans equal bad is rooted in a toxic indoctrination engendered and maintained by corporate media and elitist think tanks. Well, I will tell you, we are not an elitist think tank, but
we are independent new media.
Yeah. So the thing too about like saying she chose genocide and neoliberalism, I mean, I will say she's the only one that talked about a 2-state solution and a permanent ceasefire and releasing hostages. I mean, there's some talking points you can't get around. And like I said before, you know, when you're dealing with national affairs like this, there are some things like I don't really have like a take on that issue, like, but I will say that there are bigger like things. I don't want to say. See, I don't even know how to like articulate this. I mean,
Yeah.
there are escalations that could have happened, right? A hot war with Iran. Like, there's a lot of like other things that could have happened, and you know, maybe if she would have came out the gate saying the things that people wanted her to say, that could have escalated things in that region. But it's like I think she tried her maybe could have tried better to signal to, you know, supporters of Palestine and ending, you know, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
That listen, like I got you, I understand, I hear you, I see you, but like you know what I mean? Like there are ways to be politically correct. She couldn't just like come out and
yeah, I mean, I can get to that in a minute.
She can't be like everybody else on the internet, right? She can't get on and like spew all this stuff like us. But
yeah, I mean,
I
you
don't
know how I feel about it. I'm trying to show a clip, but I don't know how to. I mean, I know how to share an image. I just don't know how to share a video. It looks like I have to upload it, but if I screen share, it'll be a pretty poor quality. Do you feel like that's okay though?
I mean, you can upload it.
I am trying to upload it. Okay. Yeah. Well, while we're waiting for that, I'll just
he responded.
I do want to respond. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to read the next comment, but if you want to respond to what I just said, maybe I didn't articulate it the best. You know, I don't know what I don't know how, but I'm not.
No, he's right. He's right. Give me a break on the 2-state solution. No, I mean, honestly, like there's such a power dynamic there. I mean, there's a power dynamic in Israel, Palestine, Judea, whatever you want to call it. And then also there's a huge power dynamic in Congress and elections with, you know, like I'm just going to call them the Israel lobby. I don't really know what you want to call it. Whatever proposed 2-state solutions that have happened in the entire history of this conflict have always been asymmetrically disfavorable to Palestinians. Like the first one that happened was like in the 1940s or something like that. It was a proposal to give, so it was basically going to be giving like 45% of the land to Palestinians and then 55% of the land to Israelis. And I want to say that Israelis were only like 10% of the population. It was a huge disproportionate amount. And then it's like, okay, well, 55%, maybe it's not so bad, even though there's a disproportionate population, but even the land quality was terrible. You know, any 2-state solution that has been proposed since the beginning of Israel now has just not been favorable to Palestinians at all. Okay, and I'm not going to say, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Sorry, I interjected.
Well, I'm just gonna say that, like, all right. I mean, it's true. Harris was not perfect on Gaza. I know she probably didn't give you what you wanted to hear. And yeah, Dane, I see that the I'm talking thing. I get it. That was a very cringe moment.
Yeah, that was.
She must have had a discussion with some consultants to respond. I don't know. Like, I get it. Like,
really quick,
go ahead.
Just a really quick part of that. Like the next time that happened and they were protesting a different rally, she kind of like took a step back. And somebody was like, damn, like if any other time would have been perfect, hit him with the I see you and I hear you instead of I'm talking. That could have been
dude, Ayanna Pressley had a really great during the 2020 election. But anyways, to get back to it. Yeah, she consulted somebody to come up with a better line or something like that. And consultants in many instances were probably the problem, but I if I remember correctly, that was an okay one. But yeah, to get back to it, like any proposals for a 2-state solution are just terrible. But I mean, so I've had to divorce my emotions. Oh, hold on. I've had to divorce my emotions when it comes to cronyism in politics in general, right? I've had to come to accept the fact that politicians, they are governed by certain incentives, right? When you look at Jamal Bowman or Cori Bush, people who were not afraid to speak to power, what happened to them? A ton of money came from AIPAC and they got primaried and they're gone. Now,
lost the power.
I think this is actually the first time AIPAC has directly spent money, and they're probably going to do that a lot more in the future. But it's like Plata o Pluma, you know, it's like you take this silver, you get the lead, man. So I mean, Harris she's running with all of this anxiety and this very small margin for error. She's having to balance all of these influences, incentives, and stuff like that. And I get it. You're looking at her, you're looking at Gaza, you're seeing that she is not delivering you like a good message or a good hope of a way forward. But it's just like, remember, the Israel lobby has been at this for decades, organizing for decades. They have a lot of money. If you want to take their influence out of politics, you're going to have to be as organized, if not more, because of how entrenched they are. You need campaign finance reform. You need electoral system reform so that people with diverse opinions can actually be elected. It's not coming up with slogans like Killer Kamala, Killer Kamala, or a Genocide Joe.
Genocide Joe, yeah.
Just for a moment, step back and realize the incentives are what they are. Why can we not get a city council that literally candidates are running on affordable housing? Why can't they, when they get in there, why can't they actually do it? Oh, because they realize that the local real estate lobby is going to crush them with money if they do anything like that. And you can try your best to try to get them to change their behavior by doing moral platitudes and all other stuff. But what would be better is publicly financed elections. I know that's not as sexy, but there you go. But I mean,
yeah,
to wrap it all up, like I get it. Like, it is a horrifying desolation, horrific conflict over there, and it's all one-sided. And I know that I can't just go to you and say, hey, it's terrible over there, but it could be worse. Like, even if it's true, like, that's just not going to sell. I get it. But anyway.
And like you said too, like, what happened to the congressional members who spoke out about this in full force in the way everybody wanted them to? They lost the influence that they had. Now they're on the outside. Like, what can they do now? They got forced out of their seat. Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, very, very popular.
The worst part. You know what the worst part is?
What?
People are going to look at that and go, well, I better keep my fucking mouth. I better keep my mouth shut.
Yeah. So that's what I was trying to like articulate earlier. It's just like they lost the power to walk through the halls of Congress and actually have these conversations with the people in power. Like, they're on the outside now. So what are they going to do now?
Yeah.
What next?
Cori Bush said she's going to do something. When she was giving her concession speech, that really wasn't a concession speech. She said, well, you think you harmed me, but now I'm free to do whatever. And it's just like, no, you're not. I mean,
but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What more can you do outside the halls of Congress? Do you know what I mean? Like, you had the power to draft legislation. You had the power to access the president. You had like access to the power of America, and now it's all gone.
What you can do on the outside is reform. It's not sexy. It's hard. I mean, Barack Obama, one of his biggest pet peeves, one of the things that hamstrung him so much was gerrymandering. And then for a while, I haven't heard about it in a long time. A while after that, after he left office, him and Eric Holder, they started an organization, or worked with an organization that was trying to support ballot initiatives to get independent redistricting. It's not sexy. I get it. Like, I can't get people who, but that's it, man. Gerrymandering and campaign finance reform, coming up with slogans that smear Harris and pretty much make youth voters not turn out. That's not going to do it. I'm sorry, really, it's not.
Anthony, if you want to hop on to give your thumbs a break so you don't have to like type out these long comments, you can come on and we can just, talk.
Yeah, this is Free Talk Friday. I'm a little more prepared to not have a spaz attack.
But let me read his comment. The DNC can stop taking money from AIPAC and allowing for the corporate lobby to influence their primaries. They don't want to because they want the blood money of AIPAC and other super PACs. Let's not forget that Harris had more billionaire supporters than Trump. The DNC can institute their own overturn of Citizens United. We know they won't, and we know why. Yeah, I mean, like, I think we agree with what you're saying there, right? Like, people taking money that they shouldn't be taking, letting money influence, being bought and paid for, having a price tag on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody shows you the money and you accept it. I'm in Colombia. Let's do it, though. I'm game if you are. Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Just wanted to, if you didn't know, we just wanted to let you relax from.
Yeah, we can try. I mean, we've had people come on with bad connections before, and we try to work through it. But I mean, dude, we are basically
hold on. I'm
begging
not
any. Sorry.
I'm not done.
Go ahead.
So all I'm saying is too. But then when you do have people, right? So where were the voters when Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman were under fire like that? You know what I mean? It's everyone's responsibility. Like, if you want a fighter out there, like, you got to have that fighter's back. You know what I'm saying? So people still showed up and voted for the people that AIPAC was backing. And it's like, this can't be hidden. You know what I mean? Like, we
Yeah.
know the effects that lobbyists have on primaries and campaigns and elections and things. So where was the community? Why didn't the community still vote for her? They saw the stuff she was doing. She was their fighter in Congress. She was outspoken. You know, she was a progressive and things like that. Really was going hard for her district, and they still voted her out after that AIPAC money came pouring in. So it's, you know, saying that, you know, the establishment and the DNC and all these politicians should not accept that money. Yeah, that's one thing, like taking lobbyist money to be influenced and bought and paid for with the price tag on you. But the other thing too, it's like, how if that's the case and she didn't take the money, you know, march to the beat of her own drum and all that, and still lost her seat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that what they might be saying is the person who challenged them shouldn't have taken the AIPAC money, but it's just like, it's like the money is there, somebody comes. If you build it, will come. I don't really understand. Like, dude, Democrats have problems, and it's not just money. AIPAC still has an incredible amount of influence when it comes to voters. If you get on their bad side, they have a lot of power, and they have a lot of power because they're organized. They've been at this for decades. And, you know, as much as I used to be mad at our city councilors because they couldn't get affordable housing like they said they would get, and sometimes they pass things they call affordable housing, it's not. You got to get off the soapbox and realize that the money is there to destroy them if they do something that goes against the moneyed interests, and the money is there to support them if they do what the money interests want. The local real estate developers would absolutely crush a city councilor who supported source of income, you know, discrimination, prohibitions. So, yeah, Anthony, are we getting Anthony a link
if he wants to
come on?
Yeah, Anthony, in the description on Facebook, there's a tiny URL link. So if you click that, it'll bring you to this live stream. But yeah. I can also send you a message on the Facebook.
Just to say, you know, we don't want to be in a bubble here. If you're a huge Harris critic because of Gaza, come on. Like, I don't want to sit here and not be challenged, because then I go out in the world acting like a moron, you know? And that's why we've been asking people to come on, some people from those groups, and they just won't do it. But yeah. I do have one person in mind. We are actually friends, and I feel like we could have actual respectful discussion because she and I have mutual respect, and I respect the hell out of her. Don't agree with everything she says, but you know, I do want to break from this just yelling at each other sort of thing, and if I can be prepared emotionally to have these tough discussions, you know.
And guys, the other thing too is, like, we invite people on, like, but some people just don't want to. Some people respectfully decline, or some people just ghost us. So it's like,
I do that, yeah.
Like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, I don't know. And Anthony did have one comment that stuck. You do need to be a lawmaker to influence people and build power. Like that guy MLK, for instance. And if I'm interpreting you incorrectly, please forgive me. But, like, here's the thing. Bull Connor, I mentioned that name earlier in this because, you know, Maurice talked about Bull Connor. And if you know who that name is, if you know that context, I'm a huge fan already. So MLK was planning a protest, a disruptive protest, a non-violent, peaceful, direct action protest. And it was coming around the time when this super racist guy was running for, like, city council. I want to say Montgomery or Birmingham. I should not butcher that. But anyways, when it was getting close to election time, they wanted to make sure that they didn't give this person, Bull Connor, the ammo they needed to scare the moderates and win the election, right? Because you can give your opponents political capital, right? So what did MLK and the civil rights leaders do? They postponed their demonstrations till after the election. You know, and if I'm butchering that piece of history, please come on and correct me. But if I'm not, I'm just saying it takes, like, actual strategy. Somebody's on.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody just came on. It's muted. So if you're talking, just 1 second.
No, we got to let them in.
Oh, okay. You got them, or do you want me to do it?
Yep.
There we are. How you doing?
Anthony, you're in Colombia?
Yeah, no, I'm here in Santander, Colombia with my family and my partner. And, you know, we obviously live in Omaha. I'm familiar with both of your works from 2020. Was one of the founders of Pro Black, which, of course, didn't go the way we necessarily.
What happened to that?
You know, I mean, just because you're both honest comrades, there is a combination of things that we see too often with movements that aren't, you know, sort of prepared to deal with conflict, and I think that, you know, we know that especially in like 2020, a lot of people were bringing their trauma, were bringing, you know, to their organizing spaces, and we still do, but we didn't have a mechanism to necessarily, you know, deal with that, and I think a combination of infighting and not having a mechanism for healing and for conflict. Me myself, I'm not conflict averse. I think conflict is a great thing. I think we learn from that, right? I think that conflict aversion allows for a lot of the isms that we hate: racism, sexism, you know, transphobia, ableism, to continue. And so rather than people like deal with it head on in a concerted way, we let it fester, and then there's like this blow up, and that like prevents some people from working, you know, together again. And so I think it was a combination of that, and then like really not really having an actual goal, right? I mean, we saw like Liberty Square. At that point, I'd excused myself from pro-Black, but you know, my thing was, and a lot of the organizers were asking, you know, why aren't we collecting names? You know, like things that you're talking about right now, even if it's just an email list, so that we can stay in touch with each other. When you ran for city council in Lincoln, for instance, that email list, you know, for grassroots fundraising could have been helpful, and just having like an email list of 3,000 people to make available to grassroots candidates like we're seeing now, you know, would have been helpful. But yeah, and then eventually, you know, it flamed out, you know, kind of like crazy basketball this year. It just
So Tommy, really quick. So after, you know, the protests and everything, you know, there are different groups that came up in 2020. Pro-Black was the one in Omaha. So they led a lot of like marches, protests, different community events, things like that, in response to police. When James Scurlock was killed,
we talked about that yesterday.
Yeah. They did a lot of the protests there. And then there was Kenny Jones.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, that was, you know, killed by OPD. So they had protests there. So there was like a lot, you know, they were trying to do a lot of direct action, distribution, things like that. But, you know, as you know, our friend here just said, you know, everything.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I think the aftermath, I mean, you know, I happened to be in Oregon at the time. I travel a lot for work and just in general, you know, was when I watched sort of like, I think sort of like the apex of that summer, at least in Omaha, when there was that incident with the police and the marchers on the bridge, you know, and
I was on that bridge.
You were on that bridge.
And Tommy, did you know that I got detained on a bridge?
Were you told that was going to happen ahead of time? That I was shrieking and I was really upset because I don't think that a lot of people like were told this is what we're going to be doing. And of course, anyone who sort of has a little bit of background and experience in direct action, you don't walk across a bridge, you know, when cops are following you because you're like a sitting duck. And a lot of people are traumatized from what happened to them that night, and there wasn't really the support network. So that was sort of a breaking point for me of just like what are we doing? A lot of people got harmed, you know, some people got doxxed, probably still aren't able to get jobs, and there just didn't seem to be a lot of accountability or responsibility for harmed people. So I mean, I think at this moment we just can't be a part of sort of like wildcat formations, you know, and whatnot. Unless you're going to do something like, and I'm not advocating this on your show, but even with what Luigi did, Mangione, that was a wildcat formation, but it's engendered a national and international conversation about the state of healthcare and health insurance in the United States. But I ask myself, and I'll ask both of you, what did we get out of that, out of the summer of 2020? The police budget increased. You know, we're still seeing more killings of unarmed Black and brown, you know, people. And I know y'all just had an incident in Lincoln. My dear comrade Majee Miller Jenkins like always keeps me informed about what's going on in Lincoln, and I think there's just a police incident there as well. So I was disappointed. I was happy that it brought people together, but really sad that it didn't keep people together.
Yeah. So you're saying like the protesters were really harmed, and there wasn't like, you know, preparation to like support them?
let me tell you what happened on this bridge, Tommy.
Yeah.
It was like July 27th, and there was a protest, a march up in Omaha. And this was like maybe like the third or fourth time I went up to Omaha to live stream. And that was the first time I met like Peyton Zyla in person and everything. So toward the end of this protest, we had to like cross this bridge. And then a block down would have been like where everybody gathered and everybody would have like had closing remarks and, dispersed. But like at the beginning, more so toward the beginning of that protest, OPD started saying that this is now an unlawful like gathering. Please disperse, or you're going to be, arrested. And they said that some people stayed on the sidewalk. I and other reporters were on the sidewalk, most of the time during the duration of the time. People still continue to walk on the street. I don't know what conversations, people like Pro Black had with OPD, or if there were any conversations about like how you guys are protesting or things like that beforehand. But yeah, so that all happened. We go across this bridge. They kettle us on this bridge, zip tie everybody. Like I literally had burn marks from these zip ties. And people went to jail. They were going to arrest the media too, and I was one of them. And they literally had to Google my name and see everything that came up to believe that I was an actual reporter. And then because they let me go, they let the other reporters that were on there go as well. But yeah, so a lot of people were still traumatized from that. There was a lawsuit with the ACLU. They reached a settlement. I don't know the details or specifics of that.
Nothing significant, right? Like nothing that would make you feel better, Jazari, about accountability. Like the cops didn't change their behavior. It was a very weak, what's sometimes referred to as a consent decree, which is basically like cops are not going to admit to actual guilt, but they're going to make promises to kind of like change their behavior and take things into account. But I mean, both Lincoln and Omaha, we've seen that the cops have become more emboldened, if any.
Yeah. That was a wild time. So my siblings were losing their mind. So my my sister went over to my cousin's house, was on the phone with my brother, watching me getting arrested on a live stream. And my mom's phone wasn't working. Otherwise, like I would have gotten some serious trouble. So she didn't see all this was happening. So I guess my siblings were arguing like, what should we do? Should we get him? Should we call mom? No, don't call mom. Like Joey's getting arrested. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, it was a wild thing. And shout out to everybody who was on that live stream, like trying to like network through the live stream. So there was a lot of like organizing that helped, connecting people. Danielle Conrad, when she was, executive director still of the ACLU, was watching that live stream and was able to kind of like see what goes on. And people use that, from what I heard, as like evidence here or there to like, it was a wild time. But
Sorry,
as far as
props to the Nebraska Left Coalition, because the other thing that we didn't have in place was like bail support. And
that's what I was going to ask.
Whole summer was amazing. They really reminded me a lot of the way that Dr. Cornel West described the anti-fascists in Charlottesville. Of like, if it wasn't for Nebraska Left Coalitions, a lot of people would have still been rotting in COVID-ridden jail cells, right? Remember, this was still at the height of COVID, and the Douglas County Correctional Facility in particular had this like unique issue with COVID and people like, contracting COVID. So NLC was huge, not just that night, but in general, of making sure that people got out as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Well, and people were stuck there because like the systems kept crashing or something like that. So people were stuck in those jail cells for longer than what they would normally be because, I don't know, crumbling infrastructure, whatever the case was, computers were not working. It was,
so the
just thinking about it.
We will get to the thing that you were commenting in the chat in a minute, but I am just curious, like the organizations that were leading this protest, they didn't have like bail support set up. They didn't have like legal aid ready to go.
No, and again, it's really unfortunate because like it also sort of like kind of like reduced into like what my mentor Jean Mubaraka refers to as pigmentation politics or race reductionism. we have a lot of great, like, white comrade organizers in Omaha and in Lincoln who were raising this issue of just like, yo, there are a lot of things that we have this interest. We brought people together. That's an incredible first step, right? And but we still have to learn how to actually hold actions. One of the first actions that pro-black tried to hold was this banner drop debacle, near Memorial Park, the bridge connecting, Memorial Park to UNO. And when we were going to drop this banner on that bridge, and I had a dear friend, my dear friend Jimmy Butler, who Jimmy Betts, who was in town that day. He's from Ames, Iowa. Incredible direct action organizer. His job literally is to travel the country supporting direct actions, and people pay him via mutual aid to travel the country. And Jimmy was like, you can't do this because people are going to get hurt, wow. and that wasn't listened to because Jimmy was Asian and not black, or good comrades like my dear friend Sugar, who's a street medic, who wasn't listened to because she's white. And so that also, it was unfortunate because, look, there are a lot of white folk, like radical white folk in Omaha, who just have more experience. And that's not a racist thing. It's just a reality. We have people who are coming from cities that have a bit more of a foundation for organizing in direct action, like Chicago, which is, right nearby, like Minneapolis and whatnot. And just because they're white, they were dismissed by some elements of pro-black. And that also led to its demise, unfortunately. But to your direct question, no, were you told before you went on this march across the bridge, did you write a number on your arm in case you got arrested? So that's proof of, point right there that no, that work was not done. And it was just like, we're just going to march, but we're not going to take care of people if something happens to them, nor would it be in touch. I mean, look, the direct actions that I've done that are supposed to be like escalatory. Jazari's family, there would have been a list of people to call in case they got arrested, so that their families, where's my sibling? Where's my son? Where's my daughter? And someone who was basically in charge, right, of getting in touch with families to let family members know we're on it. And we are going to keep you informed about what's going on with your loved one or a person you care about.
Yeah, and so this isn't for y'all, but it's just like, I'm super inspired by history, and it's just like anybody out there, if you want to support like future direct action, nonviolent direct action, just study the Birmingham campaign. Oh my God, it's perfect. It's so well organized. Just plagiarize. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. But anyways, I mean, yeah, I don't know. So anyways,
I didn't know. Real quick, Anthony, just to acknowledge what you said. I didn't know all of that was the case. A lot of people, this was what blew my mind. People's family members were watching that live stream, hearing their loved ones crying in the background, commenting, "Oh my gosh, we hear you. We're on our way there." Blah, blah, blah. Like they knew what was happening to the loved ones because of the live stream. Damn.
Yeah. So just not to be too harsh on one side, like it also sounds like it was a huge leadership fail on the police side of things too, because it's like if I'm in charge, I don't want to give people this image that I'm just like crushing people on boot heels. Like what is the training? I don't know. It's just like, okay. I mean, y'all probably gave advance notice, yes, to be marching across the bridge.
So, I mean, at that point, I was in Oregon, so we've learned about. We were in Oregon joining our Pacific Northwest comrades, with the federal building actions that were happening in Portland. Right, we were there for about a week because prior to getting to Omaha, I lived in Seattle for 5 years, so still have a lot of relationships in the Pacific Northwest, and like Jazari's family, I learned about that march by watching live stream. It just kind of popped onto my phone, and I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that was happening. And so, I mean, I think I hate to use words like failure, but what I would say is there was an intransigence of leadership that led to failure, right?
Yeah.
Intransigence of like, you don't know everything. And I'm saying that as a person who can be intransigent himself.
Yeah. So, and I know how this might sound, but like, you gotta tell people you're marching across the bridge. I know how that might sound, but it's just like again, go back to the Birmingham. Like if they tell you no, you're not, be like, yes, we are, and I'm just letting you know so you can prepare. And if they call you an unlawful assembly, fine. But you could always say like, we've told you it's a symbolic thing. It's happened in the past. We're marching across this bridge. We're not trying to stop traffic for hours. We're just marching across the bridge. We're gonna do it. We're gonna be there. And then if the cops, it is, the ball's in their court. If they want to crush you like Bloody Sunday, go right ahead. But Bloody Sunday was a successful thing in the end, even though there was violence. But you gotta take those steps. Go ahead.
Let's bring up Birmingham, right? Because like the irony of that is like the reason why Birmingham was so successful, also known as Plan C. A few things, right? Birmingham desegregated their stores. That was a decision by the business owners. Those were private decisions. That wasn't the state, right? Because that's how effective it was. But prior to that, a young Martin King, then elevated as head of the Southern Christian Leadership Council, had an abject failure with Bull Connor in Albany, because Bull Connor just kind of let them go and like didn't actually arrest people, and was like the best way to sort of just like make this insignificant is to just like let them do their little thing, and it was a big failure. I mean people were questioning King's leadership at that point. They regrouped, did Birmingham as you were just noting. Plan C made it a lot more disruptive, but they had buy-in. And to your point about walking across bridges, John Lewis, everybody knew what was happening on Bloody Sunday. They weren't surprised when they walked across Edmund Pettus Bridge, to see a bunch of cops there. They knew they were going to be there waiting for them, and they knew what they had to do. And to that point, there was another attempt to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge prior to Bloody Sunday with Dr. King, who decided we're not ready for this, and instead of like walking across the bridge, took a knee. Instead.
Turnaround Tuesday.
Yes.
Turnaround Tuesday was after Bloody Sunday, right?
No, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. You're right.
I love the civil rights movement, man.
Anthony, really quick, just to interject, like Tommy's gonna be texting me about this because you're making him so happy.
You're my friend now, Anthony.
He loves all this stuff.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well, to that point, when you guys asked me to come on, I'm here in Colombia reading this book right now. This book is called The Second Battle for Africa, which has really made me understand sort of like the history of at least like Black radical organizing in Omaha and the Midwest overall. It's an incredible book that really talks about Alhaj Malik's life. I like to use his Muslim name as much as possible, Alhaj Malik al-Shabazz, Malcolm X. But one thing that I think is really important about this book is that it talks about the Universal Negro Improvement Association, Marcus Garvey's group, and the Omaha chapter that was founded in 1927 by Malcolm X's father, but more importantly, his mother, Louise Little, who had more of an influence in Malcolm's radical upbringing than his father. And the author argues maybe even more so than Elijah Muhammad, who, of course, Malcolm later joined with the Nation of Islam. It really is a must read because it really like dismantles the sort of patriarchal framing of Malcolm's mother of just being this like sort of like in the background, eventually institutionalized woman who, was a Garveyite and one of the founders of what's known as grassroots feminism, which was sort of this sect of Black feminists who stood up to Black patriarchal men, including Malcolm's dad.
No, I love it. I love this. Like, okay, so like I lived in a small rural town in West Texas, and we were doing like a book report when I was in like the 6th grade or something like that. They're just like, do a book report on an inspiring public figure, right? And so then I turned in this book report on Malcolm X, right, of his time in jail and when he really like educated himself. And they were like, this literally white kid talking about Malcolm X, what? And, it made people like really. And then like I didn't expect that reaction. I just came across somebody who used his mind to learn even when he was in jail and stuff like that. And I thought that was really cool. And then I saw the reaction and I was just like, okay, this is kind of fun. Like, so yeah, I don't know. Like,
you didn't do Fred Hampton, right?
It's like this I don't know how old is that? This 11-year-old in school is doing a history report on Malcolm X. Oh man,
wow!
So many stories about growing up in the South is crazy.
Yeah,
like they just don't know. But
just
we
really
watch. Go ahead.
sort of right. The Kamala Harris thing, right? I think it's really, really important. I was in Palestine myself about 2 months ago in the occupied West Bank. Obviously, nobody was able to go to. Is still not able to go to Gaza, and I mean, I think that there were a lot of issues with the campaign. You know, first of all, just the juxtaposition between candidate Harris in 2020. You know, this was the candidate that embraced Medicare for all. This is the candidate that embraced, you know, the Green New Deal. This was a candidate that embraced a fracking ban, you know, a hydraulic fracturing, which is a very poisonous way to extract energy. You know, that includes poisoning water and exposing lots of people to carcinogens. And then, you know, candidate Harris in 2024, at this point, vice president, you know, just took this turn, you know, rejected Medicare for all, rejected the Green New Deal, was literally bragging about the fact that she and Biden had granted more oil and gas leasing on federal lands and waters than Trump in his first term, you know, and I think that and then you add Gaza to that, right? Like, I mean, you know, that was just sort of like, as Jill Stein said, the veil gets lifted after that, and it opened people's eyes to a lot of issues with the Democrat Party and their corporatism, you know. And I think y'all nailed it when you said, you know, that first cringe moment of like, I'm talking right now. This seemed to be a pattern, because now we're hearing from our dear brother and comrade Sean O'Brien, of course, the pugnacious leader of the Teamsters, who I happened to get to meet when I was working for Dr. Cornel West. We went and interviewed with the Teamsters. For Sean O'Brien to say that Vice President Harris like wagged her finger in his face and was like, "Get in line, we're going to win with or without you." I tend to believe him. I wasn't there, and maybe the story, you know, was embellished somewhat. But based on what we saw and how she dealt with anti-genocide protesters, right? I would say that there's a modicum of truth probably to that. So I think that there was just this air of like, I'm the chosen one. And it really triggered for a lot of people, maybe I'm aging myself, y'all are younger than me, to Hillary Clinton's 2016 run, which was this sort of like mentality of shut up and get in line. Right. And how dare you challenge me? I mean, we saw the insurgent, historic Bernie Sanders campaign of 2016.
Oh, man.
Right.
They screwed him over on that.
Yeah, right. And had chances, you know, to do that. So I think I was also pushing back because, you know, I'm trying to move away from the left-right progressive conservative binary base, and I really appreciate y'all for lifting up the local elections. There's a lot of data that we got in Nebraska with ballot initiatives, which is something I think we need to be using a lot more often. We got paid family medical leave passed, and not just like but by small amounts. It sailed through. It was a mandate, 60%. We repealed Justin Wayne's feckless school choice, you know, experiment, right? like you know, that was everybody in Nebraska. And of course we, you know, passed medical marijuana. We still have work to do on that. I think we got duped on abortion. There were 2 bills. I think a lot of people voted for both of them, honestly, because I mean, even when I was in the voting booth, it's you know, one of those things where it's like you're ready, you've done all the studying, and then the test comes and you kind of freeze.
Yeah,
and, I pulled out my phone to make sure. I was like, oh my God, I'm confused all of a sudden. That's what happened with abortion. So all to say that I think that there are opportunities, especially in a state like Nebraska, to frame it more. If we're doing things to benefit the poor and the working class without losing our racial analysis as well. We're not going to be race reductionists. We're not going to be class reductionists. I think we can do some amazing things, as we've just proven. Dan Asborn kind of showed us that a bit too. Mr. Osborne probably should have not waited until the last 3 weeks of the election to speak to Black and brown people, and maybe he would have done better. But
like I said, we invited him.
Yeah, it was an electric issue, and you know, I'm saying this as a proud anti-Zionist Jew. I mean, this was in our lifetimes, and arguably ever, the most documented real-time genocide that we have ever seen. You know, I mean, every day, you know, and then you hear Democrats talking about wanting to remove the medium that people like y'all two, who are younger than me, we were getting our news from Gaza mainly from TikTok, y'all. right? I mean, that was the way that the world was seeing the carnage unfold. And then the Democrats are talking about wanting to take that away, from us as well. And I mean, it was Joe Biden did sign a law, that essentially Trump came out and asked the Supreme Court to delay the law on banning TikTok in the United States. Probably Elon Musk can buy it, but but nonetheless,
well,
yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Anthony. So, what if she went and did all the things that the pro-Palestinian group wanted her to do? Do you think that she still could have lost?
I think that could have been a possibility, of course. But I mean, let's talk about what people were mainly asking for was like the bare minimum, which was like a ceasefire and at least a temporary cessation of providing the ethno-state of Israel with weapons of mass destruction from the context of the Palestinians. I really do think that if she would have taken that lens, if she would have let a Palestinian speak at the DNC convention, right? I mean, keeping in mind that the Palestinian woman who wanted to speak at the DNC was going to endorse her on the stage, right? And couldn't even let that happen. What am I going to say that she would have won? No way for me to say that, right? I don't do the tea leaves things and the crystal ball thing because I'm not on mainstream media just like y'all. But I do think that there are some things that are more important than winning elections, and that's maintaining integrity and morality. And when you can do that, I saw your face, but I'm saying when you
Tommy,
maybe you are in a better position in 2028, much like Bernie was, and because Bernie got screwed twice, right? 2016 and 2020. So I don't know if she would have won, but I do think that it would have gotten more people out who probably stayed home, especially people who are about y'all's age and younger. I think this turned off people in key places because look, on the one hand, we are also talking about, the pundits now like to say, the Democratic pundits, oh, it wasn't a mandate. She didn't lose by that much. 1% in this state, 1% in that state. I believe that yes, she could have won some of those states. I do think that it was an issue that for some people was a red line, and it was just like, no, like we cannot just excuse genocide. And if the margins were as close as the Democrat Party is now saying, I think it's something that they should be asking themselves too. But yeah, so all to say, I'm sorry, the short answer to the question is I don't know, but I do know that like for me, morality, integrity, and because this is a moral issue, and when you go over there, and y'all should try to make it over there. Jazari, both of you actually have been asked to lead another delegation there in the spring. If you want to come, either of you want to come, it's $250 that they're only asking out of your pocket. I've got like 6 to 8 slots left, and if you want to come,
you want to go, Tommy?
Maybe.
I do. Yeah,
I do want to share some thoughts.
One of or both of you to come with us.
This is the Palestine.
Palestine, yeah, we'll be going back to the West Bank. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to share some thoughts. Like I have to disagree. Winning elections has to be the number one goal. Like, I mean, just think about how much harm is going to happen when they I don't know if it's going to happen, but when they reaffirm their 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court. I mean, domestic policy is screwed if you can't get a Supreme Court that's at least somewhat moderate. But listen, I maybe we should start on the things that we agree upon. Like, listen, this is a genocide. I see people always like trying to debate whether that's a genocide or not. It's a horrific conflict. It's absolutely terrible. And for anybody to tell you it's not, like, what are they smoking? I mean, without a doubt, like I saw videos of a man who was screaming for his life as he burned to death. Right.
Yeah.
I saw a child's body. I don't know if you call it decapitation. Her head was just crushed by a building. And then like, come on, people, you got to at least admit that this is a horrific, awful war or something that's asymmetrical. But where it goes to genocide, because I see people always debating this, is the intent. Sometimes that is difficult to establish intent. It's not difficult here. Their political leaders are saying we want to wipe Palestinians out. They're not humans. So, I mean, that's something that we agree on. And then the solutions are, of course, an arms embargo, and not even way beyond that, heavy, strict sanctions, economic sanctions, of course. And then what's even going to help them the most is the toppling of Netanyahu's administration, getting those right-wing coalitions out of there. And that takes a lot of organization, but I think that's the number one solution there. But it's just the thing that I have to disagree with is what are the tactics here? To me, there are two main reasons why Harris lost. And I think that and this is me just making things simple, if you take one of them away, she wins, right? One was her bland policy positions, right? I mean, when you're going around campaigning with Liz Cheney, and I mean, I'm a child of the Iraq and Afghanistan.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Really quick, I'm gonna let you continue, but I'm just gonna bring Blake in because he's been waiting backstage for a little while.
Yeah, sorry, Blake. I'll try to keep it succinct. But anyways, she had very uninspiring policies in the beginning. She talked about corporate price gouging and that other stuff that I was really inspired by. But then it changed to more bland stuff like, hey, what are you going to do different from Biden, who's a historically unpopular president? I'm not going to do anything different. Oh, wait. I'm going to have Liz Cheney in my cabinet. And it's just like, who the hell did not prepare her for that? Like, okay, right. So there's the bland policies. There's I think that a part of her just couldn't.
A true leader is not who you tear down, it's who you bring up. Like, come on, man, we at war.
Listen, like, I think that if she was allowed to run her own campaign and not have to inherit 100% of the Biden apparatus, maybe it would have gone differently. But if you could have made that gone differently, I think she wins. The other thing that I think that if you've taken away, one of the other two main reasons is we saw after 3 historic cycles of youth turnout, we saw youth turnout absolutely collapse. And it has to be because of Gaza. Okay. So, I mean, when you're going around saying Killer Kamala, Genocide Joe, these things, I feel like it's being a little bit lazy. And I do think that's why one of the reasons why she lost was because we saw youth turnout absolutely collapse. Now, I don't think that's going to work out for us. Could I have told you it was going to be better? Of course not. Like, how can you convince somebody that it's going to get worse? It's just like, do you see what's happening over there? Mm-hmm. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Miriam Adelson doesn't get what she wants, spending $100 million, $200 million to basically get Trump to let them annex the West Bank. I hope I'm wrong, but we might be looking back at this and going, we should have tried to support her, because at least if she wins and we go and protest her, because that's an option, you can vote for somebody and turn right around and protest them. I just hope people aren't going to turn back and go like, well, I regret basically helping youth turnout collapse. And then, so.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I think that there are some points there for sure. I mean, one thing I do want to say, I mean, for the most part, the West Bank is already annexed. Just to be clear, the Palestinians control less than.
It's not already. It's a segregated society. It's being occupied, but it is not annexed yet. And when it is annexed, what you will see is Warsaw-style ghettos.
Exactly.
I know it's terrible.
No. There already are Warsaw-style ghettos in the West Bank, for sure. I've seen them with my own eyes. I've been to Hebron. Basically, the settlements are built on top of the old city, right? And people just throw their garbage and their sewage down onto the Palestinians living below them. They have to walk with basically gates above them, the Palestinians, so that they don't get hit with glass being thrown at them by these Zionist maniac settlers. But the other thing that I would say is that, I mean, yes, youth turnout dropped. It wasn't just Gaza. It was the climate crisis. This is a very, very important issue for youth. And I mean, the Harris campaign basically indicated they did the same thing with climate change as they did with the economy. People are like, no, eggs are $8. I'm telling you, I'm hurting. And Harris is sending out these talking heads saying the economy is great. We have the greatest economy in the world. Look at these graphs. You just don't understand it yet. We haven't done a good enough job of explaining to you how good the economy is.
Yeah.
And then we know homelessness up 18.1%, foreclosures up. And then, of course, you have this issue with healthcare that, sure. The biggest driver of people into bankruptcy is medical debt. And these issues weren't discussed, I think, with authenticity.
Hey, Anthony.
Yeah.
So just for the sake of like time management,
Yes, no,
dude,
I'm
I want
sorry.
I want you to come on. Like, we should have planned this better. It is Free Talk Friday. We don't plan too much and stuff like that. I do want to get to Blake and just hear his thoughts on what we were kind of talking about a little bit ago. It's not on this topic.
Yes.
But hey, next week or a week after that, let's come on. We'll talk for 2 straight hours. You know what I mean?
So I'm gonna give space to Blake. Hi, Blake. Happy Friday.
Yeah.
Hey,
Blake, we were talking about conservatives, the conservative viewpoint. You're conservative, is that correct?
Yeah. Is my audio coming through okay?
Yeah, it's all good. It's fine.
Go a little closer maybe, but no, just I'm gonna be your I guess your opinion from rural Nebraska. Okay.
Hell yeah, I'm from rural Nebraska.
Okay, I'm from Neely originally, if you know where
I'm
that's
from
at.
Alliance.
Okay, no, Alliance. Yep.
Yeah.
And
I thought you were from Texas.
I moved to Alliance when I was 14, and then I went there for high school. I visit, that sort of thing. But I'm a Nebraskan. Okay, awesome. I chose Nebraska. Nebraska chose all y'all. Or
I didn't say you weren't.
I chose Nebraska. I got to make the choice.
All right, Blake, what's up? How you doing?
But no, I just love hearing your guys' points of view, Jazari. We got a chance to work together, which you guys did a great job for us on, and it's been a pleasure following your guys' live streams here. But no, I just Tommy, you had brought up the North Dakota farmer that had come on and said that, if they do with this deportation, we're going to have 2 days of food left. I don't quite understand where that farmer's coming from, because again, he's in North Dakota and he's growing canola. So I guess we're not frying any fish. Okay, next, I'd like to see truthfully where they come with that statements, because you just look at what we've done to the dairy industry. We have old mines that we have filled with cheese, and every president has to figure out what they're going to do with this cheese, right?
I'll take the cheese. Yeah, I love cheese.
A lot of cheese.
Where's this cheese at?
Be careful what you ask for. Jazari's the one that made the point. Jazari's the one who brought up the farmer. But keep going.
Oh, okay, the farmer. But yeah, no, I guess where I grew up, we do have a lot of dairies. Those are kind of dying back in the state right now. Only the largest and greatest have made it through the tough times, and a lot of their work is undocumented labor. I still remember to this day a story of, the ICE had come into the community and they had picked up several different dairies. They hit in O'Neill, the tomato producer, and a few of the farmers said within a week those guys were back to work.
Yeah, I can confirm that. Yeah, that happens all the time.
Those workers have been coming here for a long time. We need them. We love them. And you guys are absolutely correct. They're sending that wage back home to help with their families and everything else. I guess my question for the government is, why haven't we done something to make, the Mexican people's lives, similar to ours? Because they are one of our top exporters that we're exporting our corn to. So why is it that why are we able to fly all the way over to Iraq and fight this war, dump trillions of dollars into it, but we can't do anything about this cartel network that's going on here?
That's the question, Blake. Not even that. Just think of like lead pipes in America, things here, infrastructure here. Like, I get what you're saying. Go ahead, Tommy. Sorry, I kind of jumped in front of you.
Well, no, what's interesting is a policy that we've really been sleeping on since the pandemic is we've actually incentivized bringing manufacturing back to America, not the United States of America, but places like Canada and Mexico. And it's like there's huge potential there. Listen, I get it. Like, we're probably not bringing manufacturing back like it was in the 1950s and 60s. But that's something that could happen for Mexico. But think about this. We strengthen the supply chain. We give people in Mexico an opportunity to actually build a middle class. They don't have to think about going to the cartels, that sort of thing. You know what I'm saying? You make things better. It's several birds with one stone. You know what I'm saying? Like, you weaken the cartels. You give people in Mexico an opportunity to have a middle class job. Immigration goes down, and it was happening during both administrations, and they're really sleeping on that. It's just like, dude, China's our adversary. We need to do everything we can to make sure we're not too reliant on them, is what I think. And I think there's a huge opportunity there in Mexico to like help one of our biggest allies build up their middle class and defeat the cartels, and help us with the drug war and all this other stuff. And if Trump were to seize on that, I would do cartwheels. You know, if he was able to bring back manufacturing to a nation that's actually friendly and closer to us, I would do cartwheels. And I just can't believe that neither administration really saw the potential there. Am I touching on near what you were thinking?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and one thing that Trump did get stopped, two things actually. The first one is our car manufacturers were heading out of country, and he said,
Mhm.
if I get in, the tariff that I'm going to imply, and so they stayed here. He also did that to John Deere. John Deere is the number one producer of agricultural equipment for the country and honestly the world. And he was able to basically, they're staying here. They had talked
Returning,
about
Iowa,
yeah.
moving
right?
to Illinois. Yep.
Illinois. So,
But Waterloo, there's also they got plants all over. I actually
yeah.
worked for a dealer of them at one point, and so it's there's things that he did get done for us to help kind of protect some jobs and things. But one thing a lot of people have to realize is these industries, they do move manufacturing to other countries, and it's not that they're taking away jobs, it's that they're heading to hit that market to sell that equipment. We've seen this in the 70s. John Deere moved a lot of manufacturing down to Mexico. And it's literally, you can find two tractors. They're the exact same tractor, but one was made down in Mexico, one was made here in the US. So we've done this, with a lot of our industries. And you look at the automobile industry, they have left too. Can we wrangle all of that back together? I don't know. But I will say we need more American products. Looking in just the ag sector, can you guys guess how many United States companies produce the chemicals that we spray onto our fields or within our homes?
Probably not a lot, right?
Just give me a guess.
10%?
Yeah. 15.
One.
1%. Okay.
No. One company.
Oh, one company.
Oh, one company. Oh, sorry, I must have not heard the question correctly.
Oh,
One
yeah.
company does it all?
No, we only have one United States company
Oh,
that
I see
is
what you're saying. Sorry.
that's creating chemistries, that is actually like making the chemical. And there's one. BASF, I don't know if you've heard of them. They're from Germany. You got Bayer, they're overseas. You got Syngenta, they're Japan. I mean, just look at some of our people, the ag service providers that are around today. I don't know if you guys have heard of Helena. That's Japan, and they're one of the largest ag service providers for that. And so I'm curious what your guys' take on when RFK says, I'm going to completely change the farm industry. Like what goes, like what's in your guys' mind when he says that?
I have no idea what his policies are, and I'm waiting to hear what
I
they
mean,
are. So.
I know that he's much he's much for like healthy foods, wants to get rid of like things like high fructose corn syrup, genetically modified things, chemicals and stuff. From what I gather, he's much more for organic, clean like stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I guess my question is everybody knows that China buys 1 out of 4 rows of our soybeans. So when you're driving down the road and you see all of those rows, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, China's buying one of those rows. We don't really formulate any chemistries today for our US market. Everything is formulated for China or for another of our neighboring countries. So when people get all worried about they're poisoning our foods and this and that, we need we have to have the other countries' approval of these chemistries, of these pesticides before we can even sell it to them. And so I'm curious just how that is thought about in your guys' day to day. I'm in it. I'm in the industry. I'm around it all the time. There's certain chemicals, I'm telling you right now, I do not touch without PPE. I know what it is. I know what it can do. Jazari, he was over, and I was like, all right, who's wearing nice shoes?
Yeah, when you told me, oh, be careful of the soles of your shoes, you don't want it to start melting or something, I was like, wait a minute.
It wasn't going to be instantly, but over time. Yeah.
No, but I get what you're saying. And that's the thing about we don't have these conversations, right? Like the way you framed what you framed, we don't hear it like that. You know what I'm saying? Like from.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like we're like the American farmer is only given what the world wants. We produce for the world. And so for big drastic changes, and don't get me started on organic, because I think you guys would be disgusted how it's truthfully grown.
My father-in-law is a food safety professor, and he rants about organic sometimes. I don't know if it would be for the same thing, but
so should I?
Okay.
I shouldn't go to Whole Foods anymore. Is that what I'm gathering?
The
Because
biggest thing is,
I'm on a health journey, right? It's 2025, new year, new me. You know what I'm saying? But
when my producers that are organic, there's
Mhm.
profit to be made there. I'm not going to sit here and tell you not to eat it, but I'm just
Mhm.
saying that when we go to sell our grain, there's no special organic factory that we're taking it to. It's being dumped right next to the GMO stuff. It's just not getting mixed together.
yeah,
So everything in agriculture is pollen and dust related. I mean, that's how we genetically modify, right? Is by taking pollen from other plants and putting them on these ones to breed cousins and sisters, and you do that about 1 billion times, and now you have a GMO because you force that evolution on.
Mhm.
But in the manufacturing zone, guys, we're dumping it right next to each other, and we're growing it right next to each other. You can't tell me that the pollen from my GMO corn isn't pollinating non-GMO corn. It is. You can't stop
okay.
pollen. So
So go
this
ahead.
is a whole market tactic to me. Like, if we truly want to get down to things being clean and that part away, because I'll tell you right now, I do not buy any beef from the store. I grow all my own beef. It's grass
Hell
raised.
yeah.
I have rotational grazing, so I'm keeping all of my brassicas and everything. I'm growing my soil health by rotationally grazing those cattle. I'm inviting my chickens out there to go through the scraps and get all the grubs from the flies, so that way we're not increasing flies, because no one likes flies, right?
We got to have you
And
on more for
and
sure.
so
Yeah.
we're doing that at home. And then I was blessed that my grandfather was a butcher, and so we have all of his tools, and we have our own cooler, so we butcher all of our own hogs, all of our own beef, and we raise it. I will not buy from a grocery store, and
Wow.
I'm producing your
Yeah.
food for you.
I'll eat whatever's cheap, man.
Yeah.
Chicken is cheap. I eat a lot of chicken. Yeah, so I should just say that, like, even though I'm from Alliance, I lived there for 4 years. What took us there was my mom was a contract nurse. So like I am not like one of those rural people who knows how to, like, I haven't been hunting since I was 15. I'm just going to be honest with you. Do I own a weapon? Yes, I do, but that's more for fun than anything. I do stay practiced.
I got one around
So
here somewhere.
if you ever are needing some hunting buddies, me and Jazari need to come along, because I need to get back into it. I did it a lot when I was a kid, but when I turned 15, I moved with my mom. My mom didn't like guns, so of course that goes. But
Yeah,
so if
I've
I don't
always
understand, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
We're just gonna have to have you on more, so that because there's probably so
Yeah,
much we can
Blake.
talk about.
When you guys get thoughts on that kind of stuff, invite me on. I'd love to. And I'm learning so much. Like, when you guys are talking about like the riots or some protesting going on, that's
Yeah.
not content that I get to see. So I'm enjoying it. I'm loving what you guys are doing. And even
Yeah.
though, again, we have different opinions on the way we vote, we can all get together here. And
Yeah.
another thing I want you guys to know is that this is going on in every coffee shop in rural Nebraska every morning.
Yeah.
Democratic
Yeah.
farmers and Republican farmers are going to the same coffee shop. They're razzing each other up a little bit, but you don't go home and sell the farm and move away.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
work through it. You divide and conquer.
No, I
Well,
got
and
my
there's a
friend
lot of
Mark. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's a lot of overlap in the issues. I mean, hyperpartisanship doesn't really accomplish anything, like to the point where I'm not gonna talk to this person because XYZ. So I mean, that's why we're like everybody's welcome to come on and talk about, whatever, and debate ideas or things and find common ground, because at the end of the day, like, we're all being affected the same.
Yeah. We're all the poors fighting with each other, rich get rich or whatever. So I got friends out in like near the Norfolk area, and your town is near Norfolk, right? Where you grew up?
So yeah, I grew up 32 miles west of Norfolk, but now I live 20 miles east of Norfolk. So I live near Pilger.
Yeah. So I have some friends from like Howells in the Howells area, and I had my friend Mark, huge Trump supporter, huge Republican. I love the guy to death. And they were dealing with like their NRD was trying to put in a bunch of dams because there's a lot of federal money on the table and stuff. And just asked me one day, he's like, "You like politics? Can you tell us, is there anything we could be doing up here?" Because they had an NRD that was very much captured by the industry, the engineering industry here. And they had all of these schemes and all of these, oh, we know this guy who's the executive board and we got all of his dirt and stuff like that. And what do you think? Do you think we should do all this and this whole campaign? I said, did you think about running for NRD yet? and I love him, man. We talk politics so much, but the fact that they went through all of this other trouble, but anyways, that's long story short. Like, I got Republican friends. I love them dearly. They give me a lot of like perspective that I don't have, and I give them perspective too. Like, run for NRD, and they did. They had several of them ran for NRD. What was really funny is they're like, okay, yeah, there were a lot of dams that didn't need to be put in, but now that we're in charge and we read through all the material, yeah, some dams have got to go in and stuff, and it's just like, there you go, you know.
Everyone, no one wants to see their family farm go.
Yeah.
Eminent domain. There's positives and negatives to it. If we want to talk annexation and taxation at a rural level, I have a great insight on what my community did, and what just to get one business location TIF financing, and it wasn't even in the rural downtown area, which TIF financing was created for. It was on the outskirts of town, and it was Baumgars. I think they got enough money to build a bigger store if they want, but in all of those things, I will say that Nebraska has really missed the mark on recreations as a whole. You look at what South Dakota has to offer a camper or person that wants to be in hiking or water sports. I don't know what we have done to our parks, but it's horrible. I hate it, and I'm a Republican. I'm all for wildlife and parks. I want to see some more put in. Like, why is it that we have Ponca? I mean, we all can almost point a couple fingers to the ones that we do have, and they're shrinking, or they're being totally mismanaged. Steve, I forget the senator's name, but he was going after our
Steve Erdman?
Game and Park. Yeah, he was going after the Game and Parks really hard about defunding them. And once I kind of had to read through what all the yelling was, I kind of understood what he was after. And it's like, yeah, when's the last time we've had good fishing in Nebraska? If you guys aren't fishermen, you wouldn't know, but it is tough to go catch a fish in Nebraska. I would rather drive an hour and a half up to South Dakota, limit out, and drive back in the time it would take me to walk across the road from my house and go into a lake.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, an amazing perspective to have. We got to keep having you on because, I used to be really active in the Democratic Party. And the thing is we don't understand rural problems. Like a lot of people here in the cities, we love our electric vehicles and we want to go all electric. Let's not talk about where that electricity went. It came from, but it's just like, you can't get that out in rural. There's no infrastructure for that. So why would anybody out in rural America even care about EVs and stuff? They can't have it. You know what I'm saying?
I got more infrastructure than you do. What do you mean?
Like the electrical grid.
What do you mean? I have more of a grid than you do.
No, like
I
my
have
friend Mark
through my
was telling me that like his house couldn't handle like one of those plugins to charge a vehicle. Okay. Like he's not in a town. He's like really literally on his like his own, I don't know if you want to call it an acreage or something. He's a farmer, right?
True.
I'm like saying you have to drive out of Howells like a good portion to get to his house. And he's just like, man, they don't understand that I do not have the infrastructure to be able to charge a vehicle. So I don't give a shit about EVs. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm not trying to say wherever you're at is the same way, but it's just like, they're not going to care about the things that we want if they're never going to be able to benefit from it, is what I'm trying to say. So it's just like, we don't know a lot about rural people in the Democratic Party. We just got to come to terms with it.
I'm all for hybrid utilization. Do I feel that electric is the answer? No, I do not. But I love it as a competitor against the automotive industry. We need to have that. As a consumer, we all are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I don't want to go pay another $70,000 to get a new truck. If there's an electric one that's half the price and Ford drops there, great. That's competition. I like that. That competition is good. We need that. And so I think the electric market has that capabilities. But the biggest thing I want everyone to maybe look up is Edison Motors. They're a company out of Canada, and they're taking a diesel engine and then mounting a generator to the back of it, and then having electric e-axles on their semi trucks. So they have instant torque, instant power, and then they still have that diesel motor there, but they don't have to have this huge, massive motor anymore. They can go down clear to a 4-cylinder. For you guys that don't maybe not know engine sizes, but a 4-cylinder would be in like a skid steer, like one of those small deals that with the buckets. That's how the size of motor that he can put into this truck with a generator and get way more power and way more efficiency. And then if we want to talk about energy savings or emissions, that engine's running at a constant 1100 RPM, so it's burning the fuel as pure as it can to produce true cleaner energy. So I'm all for it, but yeah, there's certain parts that need to have a grid re-upped, but think about how many grain dryers we have and windmills and all of that. There's a grid to have some electric cars around.
Yeah, but I'm saying my friend Mark, and we're kind of getting into the weeds here. I'm just saying that we don't understand rural America.
Sure.
Like I'm just trying to say that like after 2016, I was completely blindsided. I was not blindsided this time. I wouldn't have been blindsided in 2020 if Trump had won. As a matter of fact, I thought he was on his way home, or on his way to winning, because he won Florida and Ohio. And I was just like, yep, doing it again. We didn't learn our lesson. And I guess we still didn't learn our lesson. But yeah, after 2016, I was like, all right, I'm obviously got my head in the clouds, my head in the sand or something like that. Let me go talk to my Republican friends and actually have a real discussion. And I'm sure the opinions are diverse, but it's just like, why would anybody in rural America want to vote for Democrats? And then we always talk about voting against your own interests. It's like, have you asked them what their interests are? Have you asked them why they like Trump? I mean, and then what I can distill is like, it's a very diverse thing, but I think one of the most important things he did in 2016 is he validated people's feelings about how the system is rigged, right? Like, he was at least willing to say it, and Clinton was like, no, it's fine, because she was part of the system, you know?
Yeah.
It is rigged. Money in politics definitely is. I don't believe it's a deep state. I mean, I think you're giving the government too much credit at being organized or whatever. I just think it's money. Like, if you need $1 billion to run for president, you're going to get a campaign of what you got for Harris. And Trump was able to establish himself again as the change candidate. You know, when you have a candidate, it's like, well, how are you going to do? What are you going to do different from a historically unpopular president? And she says nothing. Like, that's not going to be good. So I wasn't surprised this time. And all I'm saying is, like, we need to stop saying we need to listen to rural people. We just need to listen to rural people. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't understand what's going on out there.
You know, I'll get all upset with you city folk once in a while. Mainly it's when I'm driving with you in Omaha. I'll tell you that right now. I'm like, you guys are in way too much of a hurry. No one needs to be driving this fast.
Yeah.
There's more. If you watch the show that's coming out on Monday, one of the city council candidates goes into why traffic is so crazy there, and it makes sense now, but my mind was blown at the time. But no, I mean, it's like, I can't sit here anymore and go like, I don't understand how he won. Why would they vote against their interests? And it's just like, why don't you just listen to him?
Yeah,
some of it would make sense. It would make sense if you just listen to him. He's at least willing to validate that belief, the truth. It is rigged. Yeah. They aren't working for us. Like, and me, I think it's simple. I think it's campaign finance reform, but other people think that, there's a deep state, drain the swamp, that sort of thing. More power to you if you can figure it out.
I'll say, Trump wasn't my guy going into election. I really liked what Vivek Ramaswamy was saying.
Really?
But I'm also someone that I want some young boys running this sucker now. I'm tired of these old dogs. Let's get out of the way. Get on your recliner. It's my time to shine.
Yeah. I get looked at weird when I say stuff like, we don't need Nancy Pelosi's anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, these are the guys running the ship, and look how it's been going. Like, can we get?
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you really think about how long Pelosi, McConnell, all those people have been there, you mean to tell me all this old ships, this has all come crashing down on their watch? They've been there the whole time. You've seen it from start to finish. You've been, steering this ship, and you steered us into an iceberg. So.
But see, they're able to do it because they pit us against each other. They're very good.
Yeah, for sure. And it's, but at the end of the day, did you ever see that McConnell and Pelosi like vacation together?
I don't down it. What
I've seen that.
Antonin Scalia and Ruth Bader Ginsburg were incredible friends, which I think is good. But also, it's just like, remember, it's a big tent and you ain't in it. You know what I'm saying? Or a big club or small club, whatever. But yeah,
for sure.
I can't. There's so much I want to talk to
Oh,
I mean,
no,
my
I'm sure
head
you
is just
guys got more to
because
go on.
no, we haven't had a conservative on in a while, and especially one who's a rural conservative. And just there's so much I would want to talk about, but we're way over for Free Talk Friday. I gotta go upstairs. But no, we're gonna I don't know, Jazari, we gotta get this guy on the show more. I really want to hear this perspective. Like, yeah,
Blake, I have your number.
You do.
I do. Yeah. I mean,
like, we got a live one here, people.
My phone. Yeah, and I am trying to get. I got the Senators Supper coming up here, January 20. Sometime here in January is coming up, and that's where us Rule get to come in and talk to all the senators and talk about any of the bills that are coming through, what our thoughts are, what we want to do. And so I'm slowly getting involved with politics. Nothing to your guys' level, but you guys have a great perspective because I don't get to listen to mainstream media all day. It's just different algorithms too. Totally
Blake,
different
like, let's
algorithms.
get together. I've been trying to talk to senators about rural childcare. I got friends out there who really need help with that. And if I live here right next to the Capitol, I can go talk to them all I want. My friend's got to drive in 3 hours just to meet a senator. So let's connect. Let's go sit down with some of those senators and talk about rural childcare.
Hey, Blake, also really quick, Anthony has been saying in the comments that he thinks you're great and wants to get in touch with you. He put his email there if you want to connect with him. Looks like he would love that. But yeah, and also the next time you're in Lincoln, if you can spare some time to come to the studio and chat with us, that would be also cool too. Something we could plan ahead.
I'd love it. Love it. Love it.
But yeah,
otherwise,
I think this is very eye-opening hearing about different issues and things like that. And people get stuck in the bubbles, and Tommy and I have said, we don't want to live in an echo chamber, right? We want other ideas, other perspectives and stuff, because maybe we're wrong on things, maybe we're not seeing things from a different angle that is actually true and goes against what we do. We both studied history, English to an extent. I saw the funny thing of when you write a paper or do some research, you put all your points and stuff, but you also have to put into that paper, you might be wrong. Your thesis and your, overarching question might be wrong. I thought this was this. I did all this research and I was wrong, so.
Yeah.
Anyway,
where do I see that, Anthony? I'm in the studio restroom or whatever. Is it over there on the right?
Can you see the chat?
It's in the chat. Can you see the general chat? It might be on the Facebook, which means we probably should delete that comment at some point, right? Is it visible on the Facebook stream?
Yeah, it is. But he
only
you
thing
can't
I'm
see
seeing is from Patrick, excited to be here and learn. Oh, maybe I need to scroll the other way.
Yeah.
Hey, okay, I need to scroll the other way. That's rural America thinking there.
No.
Yeah. Patrick was the very first comment.
Yeah, that makes sense now.
But hey, man, it's nice to meet you. Especially I've seen a few comments and stuff here, but yeah, I bet you could really give us a good perspective. I mean, my friends out from near the Norfolk area are always telling me things that are kind of amazing. Especially with the childcare situation. I'm really passionate about that. If I could get one of their damn senators to actually stick to a arranged meeting, but
I don't know. Can you tie down Wood?
Tie down Wood? What do you mean?
There's Senator Wood is his name. Senator Wood.
Is a new guy coming in?
No, he was the fill-in for he filled in last year in on it. I believe
I've been trying my best to work with Hansen.
Ben
Hansen, yeah.
Ben Hansen, yep. So Ben wouldn't hit into that Norfolk area.
No, so his district cuts off north of Howells, but my friend is right across that barrier. So you have Howells, but then his district is right here. It's one of those things because I have them as a story, a real story to tell, what's their child care situation like. Yeah, and it's the whole thing. But I'll try to look up. What'd you say his last name was?
I think it's Wood.
Wayne, we have Wayne, Walls, Gillard, Sanders, Raybold, Wishart. Some of these people are going. He might be a new guy. No.
Yeah.
Do you know district?
I think it's District 40, right?
District 40. Barry Decay.
Yeah. Decay.
Dorn, Dover, Erdman. He could be a new person coming in because this list isn't present, but plenty to talk about. Yeah, next time you're in Lincoln, please come sit down with us in the studio. Otherwise, we're here on Free Talk Friday, typically 4 p.m. to 6. And
Love
sometimes we
also
run
can
over.
plan something too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. I liked your guys' coverage. Just throwing it back out there. Loved your guys' coverage of the election. That was fun.
Yeah.
Fun. Did you guys ever get that tore down, or is that stage still up?
Oh,
so I revamped the set. Like, so we used part of it to so the desk is actually backdrops for our podcast setup now. Yeah, I built that thing to be collapsible. We put so much work into that election night.
Jazari puts a lot of work. I do some. I'm trying to do more, but this guy works really hard. People don't know
this. We spent 3 days just testing lighting to make sure that it was good, and that lighting was good, wasn't it, Blake?
It was really good. It was good. Yeah, no, I liked it all.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it was well. I'm sure the only thing was the audio. That's the only thing I can think back to. Is whenever your people behind the camera, when they were whispering to each other, I could hear it. I'm like, stop it.
Yeah.
We've upgraded
than that,
some
it was
things,
great. It was great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching, tuning in, supporting, coming
Thanks
on.
for letting me on, guys.
Yeah, for sure. For
anytime,
sure. There's so much more we could have talked about. I'm sorry we got it really pushed in there. There's a lot of points we could have.
No, you're fine. I just want to make sure I get Anthony's email address copied and get in touch with him. So.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Blake. Yeah.
Have a good one.
Ooh.
Still live. Yeah.
That was a great conversation. That was really fun, hearing from Anthony, also from Blake. Yeah. We worked together on a different project, Blake and I. So yeah, had some conversations about things. And what do you want to go to the West Bank?
Sure. Why not? if I have to leave. I mean, listen, I feel like there are a lot of people over here very moderate, and they don't know anything about the West Bank. But the people who are tuned in, there's always this debate about whether it's segregated or not, or occupied or not. It's like, of course it's segregated. Have you watched a video out of there? So I mean, it would be great to bring that coverage to people who, I mean, the news just doesn't talk about Gaza the way it should be talked about. I mean, if I'm seeing videos of the horrors that are going on over there, but I turn on the nightly news with Norah O'Donnell and I can't see it at all, it's like, come on, we are not getting the coverage we need to be getting. But, it's a very long discussion. But yeah, maybe we'll go to the West Bank. Who knows? Got to get some life insurance first, though.
Oh, Tommy.
I mean, Israel's not very good at precision bombing. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm just kidding.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Sorry.
Wanda Lewis. Wanda, you made it to the end. Great conversations. Thank you so much for everybody tuning in. If you ever want to come on to Free Talk Friday, like I said, the description has the link to join us live, or just send us a message if you can't access it, and we'll DM you the link wherever you might be. So yeah, we'll be back next Friday for another Free Talk Friday session, 4 p.m. Trying to get our reaction video to Precious and Jesse out tomorrow, maybe, or Sunday. And then the next episode with Maurice Jones, who's running for Omaha City Council District 2, will be out Monday, 5 p.m. Central Time on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. It's really, really good. It's just going to take me a while because it's 3 hours long.
Yeah. And we got more clips dropping your way. Highlights coming soon.
Yeah, highlights coming soon. Absolutely. And also, too, Wanda, you made the comment of interviewing different people that are running for city council up in Omaha District 2. Everybody is welcome to come on. We'll reach out to some people and see what they say. Also, reaching out to some senators to come on as well, trying to schedule and work around things with the session coming up. So, yeah, we have a good slate of people that we're trying to get onto the show. So you guys can, get more insightful information from them. Mm-hmm. Any closing thoughts from you, Tommy?
No, this was great. I know we went over a little bit, but I mean, I hope that we can get some of these people on for a more planned discussion. Anthony and I, we could really talk about some things I wanted to talk about, and Blake for sure. So yeah, I mean, Free Talk Friday, just come on. It might not be that well planned out, but maybe later on we can have you on for a standalone episode,
For sure.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Awesome. Well, we will see you guys in the next one. Peace.